Better late than never, they sometimes say. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is the finale of the Simsport Racing GT3 season. Slightly postponed, unfortunately, as we all know by now, and we probably don't want to talk about it too much more. Football did not come home a fortnight ago. However, 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗡 in the Zandvoort Simsport McLaren will be hoping this evening that he can bring the title home tonight. It is all but a sure thing, but as we know in these types of scenarios, sometimes the simplest task can turn out to be the hardest one. We started at Catalonia and we finish at the iconic gargantuan Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for round 6, like I say, of the Simsport Racing GT3 Championship. My name is David Wressell, one of your commentators this evening, and I'm very pleased to be joined by none other than Martin-Pilkington. Aaron, lovely to have you on this evening. Like we say, it's been an interesting championship. It has been a bit of a runaway train from as far as 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏's has been concerned. However, despite that, we're going to have some fantastic racing tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, absolutely. Thanks for having me here, first of all. And I think that 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 is, he's done himself a service. I think that everybody that's competed against him he's shown like his maturity. He's improving constantly, and I think it's going to be really, really good to see that him take this championship. But it isn't all said and done, and things can go really, really badly at the very last minute. So if not wishing the worst, but it's still not over for the young Mr. 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏.
Absolutely, and like we say, yeah, Robbie's not got it all his own way. His main challenger, and arguably his only challenger, you would imagine, based on the points that are up for debate this evening, is none other than Dean Riley, driving in the Aston Martin for Simsport Racing. Now, we know that the Aston Martin is not necessarily a slouch around Spa, so yeah, like you say, it's going to be really interesting. I'm very, very keen to see, because I know that everyone's been bantering about the practice times they've been putting in. Some getting into the 2:16, some even faster potentially as well. I'm really interested to see just how much pace Robbie does have when, theoretically speaking, he is in not necessarily the weakest car, but he's definitely in a weaker one as opposed to Aston Martin that is so powerful around this circuit.
Mr. 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 has kind of lucked out with the McLaren around most of the tracks of this GT3 Championship calendar. But I think Spa is going to be one of the toughest races yet for the young man. I have to say that the Aston Martin, though, kind of can take any adversary head on, like any weathers, if it's going to be wet, if it's going to be nighttime. It can find the grip in the coldest of conditions. So regardless of what is thrown at the drivers tonight, I think that the Aston Martin is probably going to be the car of choice around here.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing to bear in mind for this evening's race, of course, the last 5 rounds have all been an hour and a half race. However, for the finale, we've extended that by another half an hour. So it's a 2-hour race to finish things off this evening with an extra mandatory pit stop for good measure. So not just 1, but 2, still with those 3 mandatory sets of tyres, which makes things all the more difficult. Some of these fast flowing corners we have around this Belgian circuit can prove havoc on the tyres. So Aaron, if I'm going to put it to your position, you're a keen driver yourself. If you were to go strategy-wise this evening, what would your thoughts be going into the race?
Your strategy is set for you, because really, in terms of the race, you're going to be looking at taking, I think, 2 sets. I think you really do need to put a set of tires on for every pit stop that you make. If they're having 2 mandatory pit stops, I think that's 2 sets gone. So really, looking at this qualifying, this 20 minutes of qualifying that we're now watching, is 1 set of tyres. You've just got to go for it. If you don't make it, I can't see the drivers going out and spending a second set of tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, it's going to be a case of risk/reward, especially for someone like Robbie, who you can see has already gone out on track. We're going to jump across to him shortly to do a flying lap around this iconic Spa-Francorchamps circuit, all 4.352 miles and 20 corners of it, including the iconic one you can see on your screen, Raidillon through up into 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 at the Kemmel Straight. You can see him coming into the bus stop chicane now, one of the heaviest braking zones on the track, and it's one of those that's been around for the last 10-15 years or so before they got rid of the bus stop. Around the late TEs or whatever they call them these days, from 2010 anyway, going into the source, another one of those heavy braking zones. It's really important, Aaron, to get as good an exit as you can up here, because you're effectively in the right setup. You're flat out all the way down to the next breaking point in Le Mans, aren't you?
Yeah, you got to get it right. I feel like a little bit of late braking there. Just snap the wheel back, really. Just get the biggest point you can all the way down. here through Raidillon, up 𝗪𝗡𝗡, making sure that you're not dirtying the car there, dirtying the tunnel. That's beautiful, using all the curb. That was fantastic, actually, in the McLaren.
Absolutely, yeah, considering the downforce available, using that to its full effects. He comes steaming down the 𝗏𝗏 straight, reaching upwards of 160 mile an hour, coming breaking down into 𝗪𝗏𝗏. Want to try and catch as much of those curves as you can see Robbie doing perfectly. So composed, I was going to say, so composed on the wheel. Little snap of oversteer as he comes into 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and down the hill to Wressell. Proper trail braking corner this one. You can brake as late as you dare. Get that car turned in, and you don't really want to run out too wide necessarily, so he just takes that double apex on there as he comes into 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and just down the hill into what is next coming up. It's a fantastic corner, isn't it?
Yeah, you've really got to coast through Q1. I mean, like, you can be hard and heavy with it. I kind of feel like you go faster if you just get it smooth and nice and tight. Goes out towards the curve, get straight back in, again out, just really smooth. And it's all about track position here, braking just underneath the sign, getting all the way in, probably second gear here actually, and you want to keep it all the way to the right, snap back round, try and avoid the green, and you want to be on the power like pre-apex there, really, David.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming into campus and into Stavolo, as again, you're not braking here until you get to that final chicane, so exits out of here are really important. Hits that perfectly, doesn't go too wide, and in the space where he's going to able to potentially invalidate the lap, but it's looking all good for the number 81 car coming up towards 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Again, a absolutely flat out corner. It's unbelievable. It's one of those you look at it and go, I can't take that flat, and the downforce just pins that McLaren to the surface. He goes heavy on the brakes just before the curve on the left hand side into the chicane. Goes a little bit deep, compromises the exit out of the second one, but just about manages to get it stopped as he comes over the line. We're going to see what the time's going to be. It's a 2:17.3. Now, I'm thinking, Aaron, that is, well, he's obviously just gearing himself up, but that's a time to be beaten.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a 2:16 with a non-butchered bus stop there. Really, it kind of looked like he broke too heavy too early, and then kind of compromised his exit, because once you get past the first curb, you want to keep it kind of all to the right and then get that big run back. And it's easier said than done, but he definitely did do that. He kind of went really shallow through both exits, almost through both parts of the bus stop, and really compromised his exit speed.
Absolutely, of course, still just under 15 minutes left, so I'm sure he'll be carrying on as he is. We've seen 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 go through Raidillon, again takes so much of that inside curve, which you have to do to open up the corner. Looks like he kept it clean over the brow of the hill, again, like you said, Aaron, one of those areas where you can invalidate the lap if you're a little bit too aggressive. But in the meantime, unfortunately for him, he's got no one to give him a bit of a tow down the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 straight. It feels like an eternity going down there, and getting the tow up there is going to be really helpful. You see Martin-Pilkington going in with the 2:19.4, which is a couple of seconds off current pole to Robbie Stapleford. But this is the man, like we said, Aaron, who is going to be going all out to try and knock that top pole position man off that top step.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Dean Riley's been champion runner-up throughout this series, hasn't he? He's been taking second place for, I think, every race so far. So, you know, he's looking to prove himself. I don't think he's got anything to prove. It's fantastic. He's gone up against young Stapleford, and 2:17.3 in fast conditions is tremendous. It's a tremendous feat in itself. So, I still feel that Dean Riley's got a lot on his shoulders if he wants to try and beat the Mr. Stapleford in the McLaren.
Absolutely, like I say, fast track not yet optimum. 14 cars in the server this evening, slightly fewer than we were hoping for, but nonetheless we'll get some great action, I have no doubt whatsoever, looking at the names down the timing board. The likes of Chris Pinchbeck and Simon Wilkesby looking for good displays as well, alongside Rich Smith in the Simsport Solutions, Aston Martin as well. Martin 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, of course, after a couple of races in the trusted BMW to start the season, has reverted back to his beloved Bentley, or Boatley as it's affectionately known, for the last few rounds of the season. Has certainly got some better results due to that change. Dean Riley coming through 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 on his flying lap, and we'll see what the time's going to be. As you see, Robbie Stapleford improves by another half a tenth, so it's now a little bit quicker. Regan Mitchell in the number 69 Lamborghini just sits in the middle of those, 8 tenths off the Zanshow Simsport man at the moment. Much cleaner chicane from Dean Riley as opposed to Robbie Stapleford as he crosses the line. It's an early start-finish time in line, on the straight here, and he comes in with a 2:17.6. Again, Aaron, I wonder if he's just starting to wind the heat up in that Aston Martin at the moment.
Yeah, it's the way with the Aston Martin, really. You give yourself a couple of laps. I know that the GT3s, you know, the tyres grip on and get ready so much quicker on the track, but you know, like you said, we've only got 14 people here today. and it's going to take a lot more for this track to come to grip, well, optimum grip levels. So yeah, I kind of feel like the lap times are going to come down, not quick, but I feel like by the end of this qualifying session, it should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be amazing to not see a 2:16 with some of the calibre of drivers who got available this evening, put it that way. As we see 𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏 in the FF Motorsports number 10 machine is going round through the final exit. Again, really important, goes a little bit wide there, but looking at that basic experience, I think he's just about going to be okay with keeping that from being an invalidated lap. He's got a car ahead of him, that's one of the Lamborghinis, that's one of either 𝗬𝗪𝗡𝗏𝗏 or 𝗏𝗏𝗔𝗏𝗏 in front of him on track. Might get a little bit of a tow going through the back straight and into the chicane to finish the lap off. Again, gets on the brakes, heavy on the anchors, hits that apex, just slightly misses it, goes a little bit deep into the second one, and just seems to tap that sausage curve on the inside, getting very wide out of there. But he's going to cross the line, puts himself up into 6th place, and puts himself right in the thick of things, and that's not a bad time in the grand scheme of things, Sarah.
No, not really. I mean, getting into the top half of the time of that is fantastic for him. Just noticing that 𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏 is in the pits right now, so I kind of feel like his day is done when it comes to qualifying. I think he's happy with that time. He's not looking to push that McLaren any further, I think, during qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if that will change should the track potentially get to that optimum stage. Of course, we have got potential of weather coming in as well. There is a fairly hefty, well, I say fairly hefty wind, 5 kilometres an hour. It's not anything too significant when you consider the speeds these cars are driving at, but still well worth considering that we could get rain in what seems to be some sort of strange microclimate at Spa from previous experience. Dean Riley a couple of tenths up on his time at the moment. We'll see as he crosses the line. He's got Jonathan Sfield behind him, who we understand was a few tenths up as well. And there you go, Dean Riley, top of the timing charts by 100th of a second. And then Jonathan Seville as well. Looks like he lost a little bit of time, but just drops in just under a tenth back from current pole sitter. So, as we're seeing, Aaron, all the time starting to come in, and it's looking very, very spicy up at the top at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we said it before, really, that the Aston Martin, I think, is the choice of car around Spa-Francorchamps. And, you know, Dean Riley, he's got something to prove. He wants to get that qualifying, he wants to get that pole position, and he wants to set himself up nicely for the Tour race. But in 2 hours, anything can go awry. I kind of feel like he's been really consistent throughout the championship. Nothing's really phased him, and when he's out there on his own, he's just been able to pound those lap times. And so, if he gets a good position, starting in first place, I think he might sail away.
Absolutely, it'd be very interesting to see. So do not go anywhere. We'll jump straight into the race after qualifying is finished in just over 10 minutes time. Rich Smith coming into the chicane in the Simsport Racing Rouge car number 76 Aston Martin. Jonathan Sfield back in pit lane. You can see Robbie Stapleford, after being knocked off the perch of the timing tower, is elected to come back out and set some more timed laps as Rich Smith comes in 4th place again, less than half a second behind the top 5, separated by half a second. And it's a bit of a batch of 3 and 2 where you've got the top 3 separated by a tenth, and you've got Rich Smith and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 a tenth away from each other as well. Simon Wilkes sitting 6th, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘 and Martin-Pilkington yet to set a time. However, one of those men, Chris Pinchbeck, is out on track and on the cameras at the moment, coming through towards the back end of the lap, coming through 𝗪𝗏𝗡 again, on to the back, getting his foot through the floor of that Aston Martin, the number 43 machine with the Union Jack on the rear wing, which is a nice little touch, you've got to say. And yeah, he's got a chance to prove himself. Like you say, Aston Martin, a strong car here, so nothing to be too shy about. But like you say, we've got some very quick drivers around here, Aaron. So it's not all about the car; it's just about trying to marry the two together as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a bit of a that was a bit of a slide there from Chris Pinchbeck, and it's such a heartbreak when that happens, because I feel that the bus stop is probably one of the most difficult parts of this circuit, and it's the last corner as well. So you could have an absolute beautiful lap and then just bin it all in the last corner, and it's heartbreaking, because you've got to set yourself up again for the next lap, which is 50 yards away.
Absolutely, as we see Dean Riley again going even faster. He's gained another 10th on Robbie Stapleford and Jonathan Seville, so he's now gone on to a 2:17.1. So he's continuing to improve his time. Jonathan Seville not yet chosen to come back out of the pit. Simon Wilkes has improved as well. He's within a second of the pole position man at the moment. Mark 𝗏𝗘𝗧𝗏's in the positive perception. Simsport Racing Bentley, again, he improves to 18.9, but still just under 2 seconds off the absolute pace at the moment, but I do understand he had his second COVID jab this morning, so he might be feeling a little bit worse for it. I'd be intrigued to know how his arms are feeling after a 2-hour race at Spa for anything by that logic. But yeah, did a fantastic job so far. But Dean Riley still improving, and looks like, Aaron, he's back out again to see if he can get even more time off of that.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, well, I feel that Stapleford's come back out now, wants to really, you know, put a bit of pace down. It's going to be interesting to see if he goes out on that same set of tyres, or does he use a second set that will compromise him inevitably in the race. What's really interesting though is if we compare the times from the sector times from Dean Riley, and then in the 21 Aston Martin, and Seville in the 97 Aston Martin, is which is on pitwall.live right now, is that Dean Riley is making all that time up in the second sector, you know, through No Name, through Pouon. That's where he's more comfortable, and that's where Seville is losing most of his time. Because if you look at Seville's sectors, I think he's faster in sector 1 and sector 3 currently.
Absolutely, it's clear. I'd say just all about confidence. Most you see every car barring Ash Coupland out on track at the moment. So 13 of the 14 runners currently looking to put some times in. 𝗪𝗓𝗦𝗡𝗧, one of those people, goes just under a second, and just about barely under a second off Dean Riley's current pole position time. Rob Jackson and then 679 𝗏𝗔𝗡𝗏 Aston Martin heavily represented. You would say this evening, like we say, we understand, obviously know it's a fairly decent car. Robbie Stapleford coming into the chicane gets that much tidier than he did on his first flying lap, and so we'll see what the time's going to be. 0.3 up as he comes through the chicane. He's kept a hold of that time. He has lost a little bit by the looks of it, just about teetering on the edge of the 2:17s, and goes back to the top of the timing charts, and now puts Jonathan Seville, Rich Smith and co over 0.3 behind. So it's starting to become a little bit of a two-horse race. However, 2 hours of race still to come, 2 mandatory pit stops, and like I say, only a finite set of tyres. You've got 3 to last you, the practice, the qualifying and the race. So it's just about as much of a case of a war of attrition as it is trying to get across the line as fast as you possibly can, Aaron, isn't it?
Yeah, and I kind of feel like the battle's not won here, right? Well, the battle may be won, but the war certainly isn't, just because there's a lot of factors to consider when it comes to Spa, especially that pit lane. You know, the entrance is definitely tricky. You can mess it up. But the exit also, it is a mammoth pit lane. You've got to be really on it. So it'd be interesting to see whether the drivers have practiced that. It's something that I would definitely take the time to practice, just because it's so long. And you don't want to add any more time to it. Because if we're talking a 10th difference between first and second, that's just not be. You could lose that just by not being confident on your brakes as you're coming into the pits.
Absolutely. As we see, Aaron, just noticed top corner of your screen, optimum track status, so everyone now out on track, so that rubber being laid down is surely proving a treat. So 2:16s look, well, I mean, if they weren't already on the precipice as they are at the moment, we're less than a tenth away from them, definitely going to be improving at some point. 𝗪𝗓𝗦𝗡𝗧 is one of those who's improving. He's 4/10 up. That's going to shift him right up into 5th position if he continues to continue with that time. Doesn't make any mistakes. He comes into the chicane. Looks like he braked a little bit early there. Takes a nice chunk of curb on the inside of the first chicane and the second. Going to cross the line. Currently sitting in 8th. Takes the shortest run to the line. Improves it as expected. Goes to 5th with a 2:17.7. That's a really good lap time from the piston heads car, as we see none other than Jean Pinchbeck dropping into the YouTube chat to send her love towards Chris, who is at the moment, Gene, a little bit off the pace, but I'm sure he'll continue to do that, especially you know you're following as well, as you always are. Speaking of which, comes onto our screen as he comes through the chicane. He's got Robbie Stapleford behind him, who's taking a nice deep line, presumably setting up a hot lap as Chris Pinchbeck crosses the line, puts himself up into 6th position just off of 𝗪𝗓𝗦𝗡𝗧, and putting that latter half of the top 10, Aaron, very, very close indeed, which is very interesting.
Yeah, no, the times have certainly tightened up, and it's not just since the track conditions became optimum. It's been happening throughout the whole duration of the 20 minutes of qualifying. We've only got 3 minutes left, but it looks very tasty right now, and it's setting itself up for some really good competitive, tight racing with these times. And if people can consistently put them in, I have to say big kudos to the 2 Lamborghini drivers, Regan Mitchell in the 6.9 and Steyn Passmont in the 444. Lamborghini round Spa, that's not a match made in heaven, if I'm honest, David. And they're really gonna have a tough time, especially through Raidillon and 𝗏𝗏. If that car gets unsettled, then it's pretty much game over. So big respects to those 2 guys.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course those 2 in the Silver Racing team looking to try and take the team's championship this evening. It's between them and the SSR boys who are going for it. We don't unfortunately have team championship points because there have been a couple of discrepancies in the calculations, so we don't have them, but I do know that it is those two who are fighting it out, because Steyn was very, very keen to know what the differences were a little bit earlier on today. He's clearly going for that, and like you say, not ideal to have a Lamborghini, but Regan and Steyn have never exactly picked the easiest car, have they? And they've always liked to challenge. I know the Maserati is always a keen one in the GT4 championships that SSR hold, and like you say, the Lamborghini is not necessarily the car of choice either. So if you're going to do it properly and take the hardest route, I suppose.
I've been teammates with Steyn Passel before in the GT4 season. I think it was maybe season 1, season 2, maybe when we did the 𝗬𝗓𝗔𝗦𝗓𝗡, the 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗬𝗓𝗔𝗦𝗓𝗡 together. And yeah, he loves, you know, he loves being a donkey in a horse race. Like, he just loves to pick the hardest cars and just try the best with them. And that, you know, and the races are mean to him. And you know, if he comes third, then it's not that he's been beaten by 2 people, but he's beaten the rest of the field of the donkey. And that's how Steyn Passel works. So he's brilliant. He's a great guy. Great attitude.
Oh, absolutely. Like you say, it just feels so much sweeter when you beat someone by doing it like that, doesn't it? Stapleford is coming through the final chicane. He's got another couple of tenths in hand, so he's going to be dipping into the 216s, 216.9 as he looks to stop that there. Dean Riley crosses the line. He goes faster, but not fast enough. Robbie Stapleford is stopped on track. He's going to be going back to pit lane any second, as he has done now, but Dean Riley's going to carry on round. He has got a chance for one more lap. I'm just hearing confirmation from Dave Hedges in the YouTube chat that it's the Simsport Solutions team, apologies, that is leading the team's championship, and there's roughly an 80 points difference. So like you say, definitely a chance with the points that are handed out in these GT3 championships for that to change. However, we'll have to wait until everything gets totted up after this evening's race. Of course, as per normal in the SSR Championships, results are always provisional as we let everyone submit any reports and any protests should they need to. However, not normally the case, and normally get these things squared away nice and quickly. We're starting to see some of the other drivers drop back into the pit lane. But Rich Smith isn't going to improve any further. Robbie Stapleford, our pole sitter, isn't going to be improving. So let's keep an eye on Dean Riley, Chris Pinchbeck and co to see if they can make any improvements and see if they can bring anyone off. Dean Riley's actually 2 seconds down up here, and so it is going to be, as he says that, goes into the pit lane, so he's not going to be improving. So it's Jonathan Seville and Adam Azalovic who are going to be looking to try and improve, the latter of which is 2 tenths up at the moment. But Aaron, 2 tenths up, even on a track of this length, especially where he is now, it's not going to be enough, but it will put him a little bit further at the grid for tonight's race.
I mean, any position gain here would be an absolute bonus to the Ferrari. You know, starting on the second row of the grid, potentially if he can pip Rich Smith in the 76 Aston Martin, come into the final corner, the highest. Oh, butchers the middle of the apex, gets it really shallow, kind of smooths it out though on the final exit. I don't think he's going to be able to improve his time though. I think he's lost that time, so it's no bueno for Adam Azalovic.
Yeah, it looked like he improved by half a tenth, but not enough in the end to put him above Rich Smith. And onto that second row of the grid, Chris Pinchbeck coming through the final couple of corners through Blanchimont and into the heavy braking zone, ready for the chicane just before that curb on the left hand side. Just gets it on the nose, nice and clean through the first apex, nice and clean.
Lovely.
Through the second, gets on the power nice and early. See what it's going to be. He's the last man out on track who's going to put a time in at the top of it. He improves, but not by enough. And going into the final round, Aaron, into the final race, that 2-hour bumper race we've got coming up this evening with those 2 managed pit stops. Robbie Stapleford puts a marker down and gets himself on pole position with Dean Riley in the Aston Martin alongside him. That is a pretty spicy front row, if I may say so myself.
You may say so, David. I mean, like 60. I mean, sorry. I have to say though, fantastic lap times. I don't think I've ever been on board for a high 16 round here at Spa. The conditions, you know, weren't great to begin with, being fast, and then they turned to optimum. But really, you know, he was hitting, you know, 17 flats in fast conditions. That's fantastic. I've never seen it, and I don't think I'd ever be able to produce something like that. So it was great to be on board to see Mr. Stapleford do that. It's fantastic.
Absolutely, you hit perfect timing, and we'll go over to the race in a moment. I'm sure Mr. Stephen Proudly, broadcast director, if I can get my words out and put my teeth back in, is going to be hopping on the Simsport Solutions Segway in a moment to run ourselves down the grid. There we go, down the hill. It's always a weird one for me this hour, and I've got to say, I will never understand in this sim why they start and go green down towards Raidillon. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm sure that's the way they do it because it is as realistic as you can get. However, I'll never understand why they go green down into one of the fastest corners on the circuit, because it is just a recipe for disaster. But
I
I'm hoping we
agree.
won't see that this evening.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but then maybe from my point of view, it's like if they were to go green where the lap starts, then they would be going a lot faster down here towards 𝗬𝗓𝗏. So maybe it's a kind of way to curb that top speed as they hit it, but it is still disastrous. I have to say, no matter what speed you're taking out, side by side really never works. I've seen disaster after disaster here with every endurance I've done at Spa, where someone gets, you know, pushed wide because of cold tires into the tire wall on the left. It's easily done. It's just better to let off and just make it through the first couple of corners, and then you can go to wall. But you know, just save yourself. You know, have those reservations and be a mature driver about it.
Absolutely, and like you say, they've got the 𝗬𝗓𝗧 just at the top of that very, very steep hill up towards 𝗬𝗓𝗏. So it is something they've got to be really careful about, because like you say, if you can get a nice clean run through the first couple of corners down here, you get on the power nice and early, you keep it clean and get onto the 𝗬𝗓𝗧. If you've got a bit of slipstream, you're going to be getting at least one position up there. So it's something they've got to be really careful to try and manage. But we'll just run you through the grid before this race starts in just under 3 minutes' time. 𝗏𝗡𝗔𝗏𝗡𝗏 and Dean Riley are your front row, the former of which is sitting on pole once more for the final race of the season this evening. It's an all Aston Martin second row, the Pole Simsport machine of Jonathan Seville alongside the Simsport Racing car of Simsport Solutions car of Rich Smith, dare I say. 𝗪𝗚𝗏𝗡𝗏 and another Aston Martin, a 𝗏𝗔𝗏𝗏𝗡 line up 5th and 6th, with Regan Mitchell at the highest of the two Lamborghinis alongside Simon Wilkes on that 4th row of the grid. It's then an all-am road towards the back end of the top 10 with Ash Coupland and 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗏𝗧 in the Ferrari on that side of things. Rob Jackson, Mark 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 are P11 and P12, and then Martin-Pilkington and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 rounding out the grid. Like I say, a shame that we've not had too many come up for the race this evening. Obviously, I appreciate that things are getting a little bit warmer, so it's not the most comfortable of things to do 2 hours around Spa this evening. But if that qualifying session is anything to go by, Aaron, I think we're going to have a fantastic race this evening. And with that whole jeopardy, should we say, of having those 2 mandatory pit stops in place as well, and the limited tyre sets, I don't think it's absolutely set in stone as to who's actually going to come out on top tonight.
No, and I think it would be safe to say that you could have done this race with one mandatory pit stop, really. But you have to fill the tank on the second occasion on the pit stop. But with 2, it kind of invites people to maybe, you know, take a different strategy. If they want to blow, you know, if they find themselves in the midfield, maybe they want to kind of take like half a tank of fuel, you know, get those better lap times out of the car. And then, you know, maybe then increase the fuel load for both pit stops, or maybe do a splash and dash at the end. You know, maybe just make it on one pit stop for the majority of the race, and then for the last 10 minutes, just get in the pits quickly. When I say quickly, it's still a minute and a half, but you know, just spend like 10 seconds filling up the car and go again. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the drivers kind of evolve through this race, because they're going to have to do it on the mark. They're going to be doing it whilst they're racing, so it's going to be whether they can, you know, can figure that out whilst racing around Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, exactly. It's not exactly the easiest track in the world to do that, is it? And like you say,
No.
with such an enormous amount of time lost in the pit lane, because it is so long, like you say, it's going from the chicane all the way down to the start of the 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, down to our right-hand side here. You've got to be so careful, and things like track cuts and track extensions to give yourself a drive-through is the worst nightmare when it comes to a track such as this. And then to compromise, like you say, you have to practice your pit entry and pit exit, because if you get a a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, your race is absolutely done, as we see Robbie Stapleford running our grid away for this formation lap, the longest formation lap on the Simsport calendar. Like I say, all 4.352 miles of this Spa-Francorchamps circuit, 7 kilometres in total. And Robbie Stapleford has got the perfect view with absolutely no one in front of him.
I mean, this is the view he's had all season, David. I don't think it's anything surprising for him. He will have a tough time though maintaining it. I think if he doesn't get a lucky break at the beginning, I think potentially Dean Riley will wear him down with the consistency of the Aston Martin. So yeah, he's got pole position, but I don't think, like on previous races in this championship, it's already sold.
Absolutely right, and it's going to be a fantastic race, whatever happens this evening. Like I say, Robbie Stapleford sitting pretty at the top of the standings for this Drivers' Championship. However, if he does have any issues going into this race, of course, we know that technical things can happen in this. We could have a wheel issue, could be a disconnection, all those sorts of things could happen. Or he could just get into some sort of accident, be on his own or with anyone else, and that could completely ruin his chances. So, although he's sitting fairly comfortable, it is definitely far from over. And if you want to get yourself on the grid for any of these races, this will be the final race of before the summer break. Here at Simsport Racing, there will be a lot of other races going on during the time. It's the final championship race until September as it stands. If you do want to get yourself on the grid, or you want to get yourself in the commentary box with myself and Aaron, then you need to head into the description of the stream. You need to head over to the Discord link, get yourself involved and get on track, or get in the box with ourselves, or like I say, out on track with some of the fastest drivers around, including this man. Zolder Simsport don't exactly pick out anyone, so it clearly tells you around how quick this guy is, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's come on leaps and bounds. I've seen him since he was at AC, and yeah, he's just improving all the time. And I kind of feel that Zolder Simsport as well, they've got the cream of the crop there, really. And I don't think the tune would be impeccable. The car, the livery itself looks impeccable. It's just an impeccable car, really, but driven by an impeccable driver. So, anything that goes wrong will be on Robbie Stapleford's shoulders and nothing else.
Well, I hope he's not listening to this right now, because if that does happen, he will be cursing at you as he goes round through 𝗪𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧 for the first time. Obviously getting ready to get going. They will line up in double file as they go on to the back straight up towards 𝗪𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧. It'll be left and right, and Robbie Stapleford will have the inside, be on the right hand side. I'd expect getting the inside line up towards 𝗬𝗏𝗔𝗡𝗏 and through 𝗪𝗏𝗔𝗡𝗏. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but it is one of those. It's a 2-hour race, Aaron. There's no need to go and win the race in the first couple of corners, so I reckon we'll probably see a fairly an organised affair going through the first couple of corners, but it's really going to be after that things are going to start to hot up, and positions are going to be fought for as aggressively as they always have been over the first 5 races of the season, and I'm sure it'll be no different in the final races tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I'm really looking at the number 43 Aston Martin, 6th place Chris Pinchbeck. I kind of feel like we share the same dread when it comes to qualifying. We never particularly do, we never particularly excel through qualifying, but then when the race starts and we're feeling at home and at one with the car. Is that 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗪𝗏 in the pits?
Yeah, I wonder what's happened there. I don't know why he's gone back to the pits. Hopefully get him out in a minute. That would be ideal if we can, because we don't want to see him drop out of this one. Qualified in 10th, of course, so we'll be looking for a top 10 finish by the end of it, give himself a chance of that AM Championship, which is currently being led by 𝗪𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗏𝗪𝗏, who's not attending this evening, so a chance to gain some much needed points. Hopefully he gets out in time, but that will mean he sits at the back of the grid, won't it?
Yeah, no, I thought he was going into the pits then. That was crazy. He got me going then, Robbie Stapleford. It looked like he was about to enter the pits. And he just...
I think I was going to say he took the cone out on the way through, so I wonder if he's just giving people an idea, maybe thinking, well, I'll go in here and see if anyone else is going to do it, but luckily didn't. So we've got picture-in-picture Robbie Stapleford on the left-hand side of your screen, the cockpit of Dean Riley in the Simsport Racing Noir number 21 Aston Martin. It's 81 versus 21, and that's not necessarily their ages, because I know Robbie Stapleford's a lot younger than 21, let alone 81, as they come through the source to finish off the formation lap. They'll be going green in a matter of moments. Robbie Stapleford will lead us away. Dean Riley alongside Jonathan Seville and Rich Smith rounding out your first 2 rows as we're about to go green for the final race of this season's Simsport GT3 Championship here at the circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps. We go green any second now. And here we go, it's green, green, green as they go into 𝗬𝗏𝗔𝗡𝗏 for the first time. Robbie Stapleford covers across Dean Riley with an absolute perfection as they go up the hill, that steep, steep climb up onto the Kemmel Straight, but this is where the slipstream is going to pay dividends. Dean Riley goes to the outside, peels to the left, that's going to give them the outside run as they go into 𝗪𝗏𝗏 for the first time. Good to see everyone's made it through clearly. 𝗪𝗏𝗡𝗧 is out of the pits as well. You see Jonathan Seville using the slipstream as well as Robbie Stapleford covers the inside into 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏. He's still first position, he covers back to the apex, and that is a fantastic defensive move from the Zolder Simsport car. Manages to hold on to the lead of the race. Dean Riley sits in second We've got Jonathan Seville in third, Rich Smith all over the back of him in fourth place. 𝗦𝗫𝗓𝗏 trying to go round the outside of 𝗪𝗞𝗘𝗧, who just gives him a bit of a love tap and sends him a little bit wide going through Bruxelles. 𝗬𝗏𝗔𝗦𝗓𝗡𝗏 in seventh place, Simon Wilkes in eighth, 𝗏𝗔𝗡𝗏𝗏 and Martin-Pilkington, who's had a good start, but up into 10th place. But all things going well, Aaron, so far for Robbie Stapleford as they go into 𝗬𝗏𝗡 for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Dean Riley really had one shot to get that right, and I kind of feel like he didn't pick his moment great because, you know, the tyres are still not really up to warmth there. He's trying to go around the outside of 𝗦𝗐𝗏𝗏. He's opened the door for Seville in third place, first of all. Fantastic, he managed to cover that off, but he's given Robbie Stapleford that room he needs up front, just a couple of car lengths, and that will be enough for Robbie Stapleford. He'll start to creep away, so it's, you know, it's more pressure on Dean Riley just by not picking his moment.
Absolutely, CC's got just under half a second at the moment, but of course these two sections now are going to be where the slipstream for the Aston Martin is going to be really powerful. We know how quick the car is anyway, and it's going to be about making sure he maximises the time he's sat in the toe of that number 81 McLaren as they go into the chicane for the first time to finish the first lap of this race. Of course, it's still a measly hour and 58 minutes and 2 mandatory pit stops still to go as they close up through the concertina effects to go through that chicane. Robbie Stapleford leads the way from Dean Riley, from Jonathan Seville, from Rich Smith. It's change in 5th and 6th. 𝗪𝗞𝗘𝗧, as we saw going through Bruxelles, managed to make the move on 𝗦𝗫𝗓𝗏𝗏, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗘𝗏 and Simon Wilkes rounding out your top 8. And this is where Dean's got to try and get the best possible run. He wants to try and pin it flat out as they go up towards the Kemmel Straight for the second time. He's got a little bit of a gap as Robbie, so he's going to have a little bit of breathing space to go through there as clean as you like as they go over that curve on the inside. You see, you've got perfect picture courtesy of broadcast director Steve Proudley. You've got the rear wing of the the rear wing of the Aston Martin, and the front split of it as well. With Jonathan Seville looking to make the move, doesn't go for anything this time. And interestingly, there, Aaron, Robbie Stapleford had nothing to worry about, whereas Dean Riley under some increasing pressure from that position of Seville at the moment.
I don't know, David. I mean, if you saw Robbie Stapleford there, he was weaving down the Kemmel Straight, trying to break that toe. He did it fantastically. He's still in first place there, but he's feeling the pressure right now. And I kind of feel like if Seville knows what's good for him, is not to really challenge Dean Riley right now. Let Dean Riley battle Stapleford, get them going side by side. Inevitably, they'll slow each other down and then reel them both in. But try not to get involved in the moment. I think 2 hours, long time. Just get into your groove and just sit there and wait for the opportunity, the ideal opportunity.
Absolutely, going through 𝗬𝗏𝗡 at the moment. Tyres are starting to warm up, brakes are nice and warm, so everyone's getting into the operating window at the moment. Look at that, Dean Riley really closing up on Robbie Stapleford through the middle sector at the moment on this lap, and there's a little bit of a gap forming between second and third. Look at Riley's all over the back of Stapleford at the moment. He's getting really good runs and getting into the apexes nicely at the moment. I've just said he's got really good runs. I want to say that bit again. I'll mind what I'm saying, but he's so much closer this time. He's actually gained a 10th as opposed to what they were before, and that's going to be even more useful in terms of the toe. He's going to get round the back straight in towards 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. I doubt he'll make a move into the chicane now, but he's doing everything he needs to do, and as you've mentioned, he's doing everything that Jonathan Seville wants him to do as well.
Yeah, he's always looking aggressive, looking towards the inside there. I think he's just, you know, getting in his mirrors there. There was no intention of a dive bomb there from Dean Riley, but he set himself up nicely. And I kind of feel like he's trying to play with his food a little bit here with Robbie Stapleford, make him compromise his own lines. It's not going to work. Robbie Stapleford has been winning every race for a reason this championship, and he's going to have to think of something quite outside the box if he wants to take that first place away from him.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably gets a really good run out of the source there. You can see he just gains a little bit of time to Riley as they come down the hill towards 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 up through Radyon. You see Jonathan Seville in the background there, very close behind the other Aston Martin. As Dean Riley catches the curb, goes a little bit off there, and that's got Seville almost alongside. It's contact between them. Oh, that was such a shame. That was unfortunate between the two. It just looked like Riley wasn't aware that Seville was so close alongside him. Maybe he wasn't picked up on the radar. And then the battle between them just commenced. Obviously, Riley coming back on and knocking Seville to the side. Fortunately, looks like they're both still running, but Seville's dropped right the way back behind Mitchell, down into 7th position now. And that is unfortunate. Hopefully not too much damage done for the two of them, but all offset there, Aaron, just by the fact that Dean Riley just got a little bit too much curb going up the hill there.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I feel like that's Riley. I know that Riley's got a right to defend there, but you're going so much speed. By the time that they made contact, they were both settled Yeah, I think 𝗬𝗪𝗓 may have had to let off there because he's carrying too much speed. It could have been considered track limit. We don't know. We can't see it. But at the same time, if someone's behind you and they're creeping that fast, and you're giving them no room, there's got no option but to hit you in the rear. And I kind of feel like that could have been really avoided. It wasn't like it was an instant reaction. It kind of led to that point, and yeah, I kind of feel like 𝗬𝗪𝗓 could have done better there.
Yeah, it did seem a little bit like that. Like you say, it's one of those areas of the track, isn't it, where it's starting to close up a little bit because of the way the track kinks around to the right as they go onto that Kemmel Straight, and it was just unfortunate for Seville to get caught up in that. Like I say, hopefully that's not done his car too much damage. We'll see whether he comes into the pits after that, because that could potentially, as we talked about, open himself up to a slightly different strategy as opposed to everyone else. Of course, we don't know exactly what their strategy is going to be. 𝗬𝗪𝗓 certainly doesn't pit, and Rich Smith, nor does Chris Pinchbeck or Adam 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗧 either. So Jonathan Seville has been overtaken by Simon Wilkes as well by the looks of it there. We'll see when he does come into the pits. We're going to get a replay of the incident. You see here, just catches that curb. There's that little bump on the inside curb there as they go up through Raidillon. And then, like you say, Aaron, yeah, it just comes across. It's a bit of an odd one, really, because it's not exactly like Riley cut across the front of him and then caught the front left bumper of Seville. It was almost as if the closing speed did more than anything. But yeah, very odd one. As you see, Seville does in fact pit and elects to serve the first of his two managed pit stops.
I'm for the first time this season, David, I'm going to have to take my words back from a better camera route provided by our production broadcaster. I have to say that was actually looked like Seville in the end, because 𝗬𝗪𝗓 chose his line. He didn't move over. He was already over, and it looked like Seville just kind of kept his foot smashed on the throttle and tried to go to the left of him and caught the rear end of 𝗬𝗪𝗓. So I have to hold my hands up, but I don't think that's 𝗬𝗪𝗓's fault. I think that's Seville just not letting off the gas there, wanting to get such a big run, and he kind of paid the price for it.
It's a difficult one, isn't it, like you say, because you want to try and balance risk and reward. You want to try and keep it pinned if you can, because you know that if you get off the power at all, then you've potentially lost the chance of the overtake up towards 𝗪𝗏𝗏. So he's tried to keep it pinned, and like I say, just caught back of his fellow Aston Martin in the Simsport Racing Noir car. Still in the pits at the moment is Seville. Obviously took a battering on the afterwards as well, after obviously Riley went into the wall on the right hand side, came back, and it was almost like pinball as they caught the other one. So hopefully that's going to mean he can still come back into this race. It'd be a real shame if he couldn't, but it now just means that 𝗬𝗪𝗓 is under pressure from a different Aston Martin instead, in the form of Rich Smith in the Simsport Racing Rouge, teammate of Riley. So I can't imagine seeing too many dodgy overtakes coming as part of this. Importantly though, Aaron, the gap between Stapleford and Riley is now up to what you say, it's a mammoth one, and considering the distance on track at the moment, it's up to quite a large 2 seconds, which is only after 4 laps as it stands.
Oh, that is a dive bomber there. I think Rich Smith just got past his teammate 𝗬𝗪𝗓 going into the pits. Sorry to interrupt you there, David. I think he's going into the pits. They've got to repair this damage. It's such a shame. There's not even 10 minutes into this race, and two of the podium drivers there they both got damage, and I kind of feel like it's way too early to be getting that sort of damage. You can see all the Aston Martins of Chris Pinchbeck, Rich Smith. They're kind of catching. They were kind of catching 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓, so he's got to make a calculated decision, go into the pits there, and I think he's going to be driving for the rest of the race with 2 full tanks.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm just going to keep an eye on Seville, who has now left the pit lane, so he's fortunately managed to get out there. He spent 2.5 minutes in pit lane there, which, like you say, you're taking about 1.5 minutes to get through the pit lane at that horrible speed limit. Oh, as he slides across the curb.
Lovely.
He's now got to go and deal with all of these blue flags behind him. It's very sideways, very cold tires. He needs to get out of the way of Rich Smith, who's going to be flashing the lights like nobody's business, all covering him off. Interesting move from Seville there. Of course, he will be seeing those blue flags, so he is obligated to get right out of the way. And it'd be interesting to see now the difference between what happens with his pit stop and with 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓 as well, who's obviously now down to 13th. We've just got to wait and see what the difference is over the next half a lap. But Robbie Stapleford is counting all of his chickens at once, because he's come out with what was originally, like you say, he was under a little bit of pressure going through the Kemmel Straight the lap before, weaving just to get out of the toe if he could. The next lap he's got a 3-second gap, and he's got one of his championship contenders in pit lane, which I doubt is what 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓 was looking for so early on this evening.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's just more bad news for Seville. He didn't really have an option. If he's had more than a minute's worth of damage, say, or like up to a minute's worth of damage, you really can't hold out there on the track. You're going to be losing a lot more time if you do. So, you know, it's more bad news because he's come out and now he's going to be under the order of the blue flag. And that means that he will have to get out of the way, inevitably losing more time until the other cars decide to pit. And I'm afraid I don't think that'll be anytime soon. I don't think for the next 30 minutes we're going to see any of the other cars pit.
Yeah, exactly right. And you can see, he's got 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 behind him, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, then he's got 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, a slight gap back to Simon Wilkes, courtesy of 4.5 seconds. But once he yields to the blue flags, he's not going to have that time. It's going to be down to sort of 3 seconds. I've just looked, and Dean Riley has already exited pit lane, so he was only in the pits for 1 minute and 42 seconds. So potentially fix the damage, don't change the tyres, and be on your way, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, really, really weird one. Looking at some of the drivers that who've had a slightly better start to the race than these two is Martin-Pilkington and 𝗧𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏. Of course, they started 13th and 14th. They're up to 8th and 9th respectively. So good start to them. They've managed to get past the likes of 𝗪𝗞𝗘𝗧, 𝗪𝗞𝗘𝗏𝗏 and 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏, the course, the two drivers who have pitted so far in the form of Riley and Seville. But yeah, it's all coming up Robbie Staple at the moment. It's a 3.4 second gap for the McLaren driver, the Zancho Simsport driver, 3.5 seconds now as they cross the timing strip in the first sector. Rich Smith is in second place. He's got a 2-second gap back to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who's got a little bit of pressure from behind by the looks of it from 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who's just under 2/10 behind. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Mitchell rounding out the top 5 within Simon Wilkes and Rob Jackson, Martin-Pilkington, 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Mark Neuterling's rounding out your top 10 as it stands. But of course, Aaron, very early doors. 1 hour and 47 minutes still to go, so a fair chunk of the race still left, and plenty of chances for any one of these guys to get back up and make some inroads in the standings for the rest of this evening.
Yeah, and really, it's a time for some of these drivers who perhaps have left it a little too late, but do have the great skill to go ahead and get like a podium finish. But 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, I think, is on track. Obviously, loads of time left in this race, but I think he'll be on for his first podium, maybe. I could be wrong with that, but I think this might be his first podium if things go well. And it will be the same for 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who really has gone back to the Ferrari which he loves and adores most. You know, it's really creature comforts right now for the Serbian guy in the 111 Ferrari.
Absolutely. It's like to say, we've seen a few people do that, of course. Adam's one of them. Mark Neuterlings, of course, we said earlier in the broadcast, went from the BMW back to the Bentley. But a couple of changes. I know that the Pulse Simsport guys are in the McLaren, but in the Aston Martin again, went back to the Bentley as well. So it's just interesting to see how people are making those changes. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 all over the back of the Bentley that we were talking about a moment ago. Mark Neuterlings, not really the right position you maybe want to be making that move as they come up towards Blanchimont. He just looks to the outside, gets out of the toe for a second. He's going to have to lift slightly, get some dirty air, and does a little bit of understeer going through that fast left hand as he goes towards the chicane. Is he going to go for a move? He just looks to the inside, brakes a little bit earlier than maybe would need to just to get the right apex, and looks like he's going to be shaping up for a move down the Kemmel straight into Les Combes. Just try and get the best run possible out of the source and try and make that move in the next couple of corners, as this is currently the closest battle on track, barring that of Asalovic and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who, like you say, Aaron, I think you're right, neither of them yet had a podium in this season, so a perfect chance for one of them to get onto that step of the podium this evening.
Yeah, and just huge kudos right now. I didn't realise, but Ranjiv Kelsey in the Ferrari Works the 33 Ferrari, he started the pits here at Spa, and he's only 1.5 seconds off the that battle we were just on board with the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Neuterlings. So it's fantastic, really, that he's been able to catch them up. I mean, obviously the cars are bunched up, but he's been absolutely flying, and he can be setting himself up for a good battle with these two up front.
Yeah, absolutely right. Fantastic work from the Rinaldi Racing number 33 car, not his normal livery, if I'm not mistaken. Normally goes in the Shoe Me Get Well Soon car, so electing to change the colour scheme. Well, I say it's changed the colour scheme, it's still bright red, it's a Ferrari of course, but electing to change the actual livery design itself. But yeah, considering I think it was 14 seconds he was off the back of the guy in front of him, who was in 13th just after the start of the race, which was 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Like you say, fantastic work from the affectionately known Ferrari Works driver for SSR to, like you say, get back onto the back of these guys, and he's putting in some very respectable lap times. As it stands, we turn our attention to another one of the Ferraris in this race, Adam Misalovic in the 1111 piston heads machine. Say, own looking at the back of one of the many Aston Martins in the field this evening, that of Chris Pinchbeck in the number 43 Simsport Solutions car, who's having a fantastic show of it. Jean Pinchbeck watching in the chat as well. I know she always likes to keep an eye on her Pinchy, and he's doing a fantastic job at the moment. He'll be hoping to bring it home on one step of the podium. However, I'm sure he'll still be looking ahead of him towards Rich Smith, who's just Jonathan Seville a little bit further up the road as well. So luckily for him, Aaron hasn't necessarily been impacted too much by the blue flags at the moment, because these two on track, or soon to be these three, as 𝗏𝗏 starting to appear on the scene, are continuing to fight, which has given Seville the chance to not necessarily be hampered by having to give up track position every couple of laps.
Yeah, he'll be looking at this, praying on his lucky stars that they continue to battle. But Adam 𝗬𝗏𝗏, blinder there through 𝗓𝗔𝗏𝗏𝗏, really gets that toe as well. He's looking to set himself up. Chris Pinchbeck is going to have to go defensive down the middle. He's going to compromise Adam all the way around the outside. Is it going to be like a 𝗦𝗏𝗕𝗏𝗏 2.0? They've got the grip in the tyres. Can he do it? He matches him on the brakes, tries to keep it round the outside. That is beautiful. They tap just a little bit. That is fantastic move. And then he goes midline there from Adam. Oh, the car's squirreling all over the place. Bit of snap oversteer in the Ferrari, but that was fantastic. And Chris is just going to let that go and kind of re-engage, get back on it really as quick as he possibly can, because while all this has been going on, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in 5th place is just behind them both.
Oh, what an awesome move that was. Adam 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 went the long way round at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗡 and just managed to keep it pinned. Like you say, worked out perfectly for him. No issues with colder tyres, as we saw Riley and Stapleton on lap 1, using all of the grip he had available around the outside into the first apex of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. A fantastic move. Nice to see, elbows out, but nothing too silly. Unfortunately, the physics of ACC not coming into play as well, and shifting one of them off into the shadow realm as soon as there was the slightest amount of contact, which is always nice to see as well. But like you say, Pinchy's going to have to keep his wits about him, because he's got a very scary looking Lamborghini with that shark designed livery of Regan Mitchell very, very close behind him, and I'd expect that Mr. Mitchell is probably smelling blood. And if there's anything I know about Regan Mitchell and the times I've raced with him in the past as well, is if a move is available, he will take it and he will not look back, and he will make that move stick 9 times out of 10. So Pinch is going to be very careful. Fortunately though, he's got a little bit of a gap as it stands back to the Lamborghini rather, that we're riding on board with at the moment.
Yeah, I have to say though, the first part through 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was so impressive from Adam, from both drivers really, the way that he was able to brake and just keep that Aston pinned to the curb. But it was what he did at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 which was even more impressive, because usually the racing line is you would probably go slower, go all the way to the left and then cut back. Instead, what he did was he gave Chris Pinchbeck a racing line, like he can't move from it. He's almost pinning him to the inside tarmac there, and obviously that's just inevitably going to compromise his line through that court, through 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So that was fantastic racing from Adam 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the 111 Ferrari, but it was also good respect from Chris Pinchbeck in the Aston, because he could have so easily just kept tapping him around there, really just pushing that Ferrari. That Ferrari doesn't like to be manhandled. You've really got to treat it with a certain etiquette there, and any more love taps from Chris Pinchbeck, and I think that could have been a really disastrous event for Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. Like say, English car against Italian car. Unfortunately, on this occasion, again, the Italian version takes the win, but that's the last thing to say about it, because I'm still not okay with it. But yeah, Adam 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 currently sitting in 3rd position. He's got a 5-second gap, just under that, to Rich Smith in the number 76 Aston Martin ahead, who's then a further 3.6 seconds behind Robbie Stapleton. But he's managing to keep that gap to Robbie fairly stable at the moment. One man who's trying to make a move and doesn't seem to be doing it at the moment, but he is behind one of the hardest people to pass that I've ever raced against, in the form of Martin-Pilkington. He's not exactly, he doesn't exactly make his cars narrow, does he, should we say? He seems to be doing that job once more. He's dropping a little bit back off staying past one. There's a 7.5 second gap back to the man in 9th position at the moment, but Ash Coupland's just going to want to try and make a move at some point soon, isn't he, Aaron? Unless he decides to take that decision to go into the pit lane, as he just outbrakes himself there going into 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Just needs to calm it down a little bit maybe, and potentially consider whether a pit stop might be the better choice of strategy right now.
Yeah, he's definitely burning, rubber that he needs to save on these tyres by, being aggressive into the corners. I kind of feel that Spa is one of those tracks where you have to go slow to go fast. You have to be super smooth. You gain more time from almost coasting by keeping your average, mid corner speed up, but not being aggressive with it. Right? There's only really 2 heavy braking zones, as we're coming up to one right now, which is this bus stop. I would say 𝗓𝗓𝗓, but the rest are not. You got to be smoother. You're not really stamping on that brake. You've just kind of got to measure your throttle. I know it sounds stupid, but it's just the way that I kind of interpret Spa. It's not an aggressive track. It's 2 hours of just averaging averaging times through corners. Really, you got to keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not wrong at all. Just looking at
I know what I mean. It doesn't matter if everyone else doesn't know what I mean, but I know what I mean.
as long as you say it with confidence, Aaron, anyone will believe what you say. So don't you worry at all. I've learnt that in the past that it works. I can guarantee you that. Anyway, I'm just looking at the wind at the moment. It's doing a lot of things. It's sticking around the 2 kilometres an hour mark, so nothing too crazy and not enough to maybe put in some adverse weather. And it is as sunny as you can get it in the 𝗬𝗏 region of Belgium at the moment here at the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, just over 20 minutes into the race, 4 p.m. local time in the server. But it's interestingly, like I say, we talk about the fact that Spa has its own little microclimate. The wind is starting to go in every which direction it possibly can. Now, I wonder if that's just potentially just to do with the way that ACC handles it, and it's because it's looking at the way that Rob Stapleton's car that we're all riding alongside at the moment is driving. However, definitely something to keep an eye out for, because as we know from real world experience, this is the kind of track where conditions can change with literally a click of the fingers. So it is something you have to keep an eye out for. You see 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗓𝗏 going up towards 𝗬𝗏𝗓𝗏 and onto the Kenmore Straight. He's the fastest man on track at the moment, Aaron. He's put in a 2:18.2 on the last time around instead of a 2:18.3. So he's got just under a tenth of a second in hand of Robbie Stapleford. However, he's of course lost a lot of time in the pit lane. So it is one of those, isn't it? He's got one more stop to make. Of course, Robbie's still got 2. It's not over, is it? Not by a long shot.
No, he's kind of, his saving grace right now is that he's got all that track to himself. Really, he's out there by himself. He's able to put those lap times in, but like you said, he's in the ideal position to recuperate the time lost. But can he recuperate that time lost? He's going to have to push that Aston Martin. And if I'm honest, just by going off what we saw in qualifying, to be consistently faster than Robbie Stapleford in that McLaren is a huge feat. He is the fastest man on track right now, like you said, David, but he's got to be consistently the fastest man on track. And that might be too much, considering we are at Spa, and it's probably one of the most demanding tracks here on ACC.
Yeah. Absolutely. On to lap number 11. Then Robbie Stapleford still leads the way. His gap is being bitten into ever so slightly over the last couple of laps by Rich Smith. Gained another tenth in the last sector. Was actually 3 tenths quicker on the last lap. A 2:18.21 for Rich Smith and 2:18.5 for Robbie Stapleford. So the gap is starting to wither a little bit. He's still got plenty of time. Of course, 3 and a bit tenths of a second. 3 seconds, if I can get the words out, is still a pretty tidy gap. It's nowhere near enough to get into any sort of tow or anything like that. And of course, as we mentioned, Robbie's got a clear track ahead of him all the way up to 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗓𝗏, who is currently going into the final chicane. This is Robbie's in from Mr. 𝗬𝗏𝗓𝗏. And the way we can see that is via the incredible system that is that of pitwall.live. So if you head to pitwall.live and look for the Simsport Solutions server, you'll be able to see everything that Aaron and I can see, which includes all of the live timings and everything, as well as the friendly broadcaster. It pops it up on the screen at perfect time, as you see the 81 machine going through in towards 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗓𝗏 at the moment. That's Robbie Stapleford, and that number 21 at the top end of the screen, all on his lonesome, is that of 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗓𝗏. And you can compare all your sector times, stint times, and everything like that as well, which certainly is helpful and certainly gives you an idea, especially in these longer races, Aaron, exactly how these strategies are playing out, doesn't it? See, the number 33 car, I've noticed, has actually stopped through 𝗚𝗏𝗏. That's 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧𝗏𝗡. So I don't know what's happened to him there. What if he's a little spin, maybe caught the curb on the way through? He's back up and running now, but yeah, a little bit of a mistake from the Ferrari Works driver, and has dropped himself a little bit further back because he was starting to make a bit of an inroad on this battle, wasn't he, up until that point?
Yeah, we were giving him credit for his amazing recovery from starting from the pits, and it can happen here at Spa. You start, like we said, we start over pushing, and things just can become undone. And I'm sure he'll be back on. He's got a 12-second gap, but he's got an hour and a half to make that back up. I don't think we're going to be seeing 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗘𝗧 in last place at all. Really, he's definitely got the pace to challenge these two at least, and I think it'd be really good if he does, because it'd be a great battle to finish off the championship. I have to say, just up front though, that gap between Smith and Staplewood is wavering around the 3-second to 3.5-second gap, and that's really impressive from Smith's point of view in the 76 Aston Martin, because he was roughly about 3 or 4 tenths off Staplewood's pole position lap time. But he's able to keep that gap. Now, obviously, you know, if he wants to go for the win, he's going to have to better his lap times. But from this standpoint at the moment, his lap times have improved from quality to race pace for Rich Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. You come to a replay here. This is 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧 going into 𝗚𝗏. Just gets too hot and heavy. You talked about it, Aaron, didn't you? You talked about it on the hot lap we ran with Robbie Stapleford. You've got to come into that corner a little bit slower than it looks like 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧 did there, and it just got, as soon as the back end went, there was no chance he was going to stop that, was he?
Yeah, he just let on that handbrake button. That's what it was. That electronic handbrake. Just think, just initiated. It's oh well, gotta go for it. I love it. No, that was actually really good. It's probably one of the best places to have a solo incident, to be honest, because there's so much runoff space right there, so you can just get back. You know, your tyres are going to be a little bit scorched, but minimal damage really, considering what you've just done. So yeah, he'll be back on track and raring to go again.
Yeah, absolutely, and if we're hoping he won't do that again. Wind picking up. Just noticed the clouds are coming back out as well, so still something to keep an eye out for. That microclimate still potentially. Oh, you might be wondering if I'm hoping for some rain potentially. It would certainly spice things up on top of what we're already getting, because at the moment, as you can see, that gap, like you said, Aaron, between Stapleford and Smith, wavering slightly. It's been going from anything up until 3 seconds up to the latter part of 3.5, 4 seconds at the moment. 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗡𝗧 just keeping that gap at around about 5 seconds in third place, and Chris Pinchbeck just drifting off the back of the Ferrari man. At the moment, just lost about 3 seconds over the last few laps after that fantastic move from the Serbian, the number 𝗪𝗏𝗪 machine, into 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏 a few laps ago. Regan Mitchell 2.7 seconds back in the number 69 Lamborghini, doing absolute bits with, like you say, one of the slightly more difficult cars to handle throughout this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Rob Stapleford getting all of the curb, going up towards the Kemal Straight. You love to see the aggression, even though there's an hour and a half of this race still to go. He's certainly not holding back at all, and got another 0.3 of a second off of that man. However, though, Aaron, just looking at it, 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗧 quicker to the top 3 or top 10 on the last lap. So he's certainly pulling out some speed from that Ferrari, isn't he? He's got the pace in that car.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe he's at what, nearly 4 seconds, storming away from Chris Pinchbeck right now. I expected Pinchbeck to kind of not retaliate, but respond aggressively. And yeah, like we said before, you know, Seville was given a golden opportunity with them battling to get away, but he's under the blue commandant, the blue flag commandant. Fantastic control there from Adam in the Ferrari over the curbs. And yeah, looks like Seville's going to have to pull over to the side to get off the racing line, because Adam is on a flyer right now.
Yeah, absolutely. He's certainly got the pace in that Ferrari, although not necessarily the cleanest way through No Name at the top of the hill there. I wonder if anyone's passed on the message to him that he's still only got 3 sets of tyres to last him this entire evening, because if he's doing that the whole way through every corner, they're not going to last very long. And yeah, blue flags are waving for Jonathan Seville. He's not necessarily, I mean, he's definitely going through the premise of, I'm not ruining my race to benefit yours, isn't he? Because he's not getting out of the way, and look, fair enough, he's not entitled to do so straight away. Of course, it's GT racing discipline, so he only has to get out of the way when absolutely necessary. It's not like Formula 1, for example, where of course you've got to get completely off the power and start to get completely out of the way. So it is something that he's well entitled to do. I can just imagine, though, I mean, let's face it, Adam's not exactly the kind of person who's going to be reaching in the cockpit of that Ferrari, is he? You'll just be sat there going, that's fine, look, you're going quick enough as you see. Seville, not the standard way that you'd end up going out of the way of the blue flag. Yeah, gone back into the pit. So is that Jonathan Seville's race done and dusted? It is. He's left entirely. So I don't know what's happened there. Don't know if there was.
𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗏𝗪 just breaking people's spirits on track.
he's flashed the lights once, and what Jonathan's got is gone. Nah, no, I'm all right with that. I'm not about that. And has elected to leave as a result, which is a really big shame, because of course was doing a fantastic job at the start of the race. Of course, got caught up in that incident between himself and 𝗦𝗫𝗓𝗏. Took an early pit stop, which was a much longer one than I think anyone really expected. And a quarter of the way into this race, we've lost the pole Simsport driver, which is a massive shame. But of course, understandable considering the damage he's taken, as 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 is the first of our drivers to come in and arguably, Aaron, put in what you would class as a scheduled pit stop, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think this is the first, like you said, the scheduled pit stops here. Going to be interesting. I kind of feel like he's doing it maybe a shorter stint, but then he's going to maybe just do 45 minutes. He's going to break it 50-50 for the remaining mandatory pit stop that he will have to serve. I kind of feel like this is sensible. It's been a great job so far from 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Yes, he is in 12th place currently, but before he was in the pits, he was up to 9th, and he started last on the grid. So that was a net gain of 5 positions before he entered the pits there, and obviously he's gained a little one from the disconnect from, well, the exit from the race from Seville. So he's looking positive right now, and he's going to end up coming out of the pits hopefully with a bunch of tarmac in front of him, clear tarmac, and to be able to put the lap times down in that Lamborghini. So fantastic for 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Yeah, absolutely. I did actually notice as well, he was actually behind 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧𝗏 when he came into the pits. I think he had a bit of an incident as well, because there was a yellow flag at one point, but I didn't actually see on Pitwall Live that anyone had actually stopped. I don't know if he's obviously just got it going a lot quicker than 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 managed to. Whether it's the same incident, I'm not entirely sure, but maybe that's potentially caused it. You see 𝗓𝗏𝗡𝗘 going deep again into Fania. It's not the first time he's done that. As you see, 𝗦𝗨𝗕 going ahead of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, courtesy of his pit stop. So that clearly proves the fact that 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's going in for a slightly longer one. Like I say, or maybe he is just electing to fill the thing up and go for that, split it down the middle. We'll have to wait and see. Wind continuing to pick up as well, which is well worth noting. So not potentially out of the realms of a chance of rain, which is something to keep an eye out for as well.
Yeah, and also track temperatures falling as well. You know, I think we started the race on 21, 29. You know, track was 29 degrees. We've lost almost 4 degrees Celsius of track temperature as well. So maybe the cooler weathers, I think it gets to a point where they'll be looking at optimum levels of grip soonish. That 2024 is what you're looking at. So we might see faster lap times. But then it kind of then you start to lose grip once it gets below that point. Really, you're looking at 16 Celsius mark. So guys, got to be careful out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, I think there's a replay of 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. You can see 𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧𝗏 ahead of him there.
Oh dear.
So Martin-Pilkington, coming into 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. What's going to happen is he's going to catch that infamous little curve. He does, and does he keep it out the wall?
Oh!
Just a little nibble on the wall as he comes back out, and that is that's 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 there coming up the hill as well. That would have been a bit scary moment, bit of a code brown for 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 there, as you see. Yeah, it's so unfortunate. I was about to say save of the season from 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 there, but unfortunately a tiny little love tap.
Just grazed that tire. Like, it just looked like his front was whipping round, and you know, if our broadcaster hadn't got a replay, then we wouldn't have anything that happened. But that could have been save of the season. That would have been fantastic if he just carried on like nothing happened. Code Brown. Oh. I
was going to say, it looked like he was just coming out the pit lane, didn't it? If he'd have managed to get it spun round, he could have just been like, "Yeah, just exit the pit, lads. It's all good. I've just carried on." One person who is currently looking to exit the pits is that man, 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Of course, we saw him going deep into a couple of corners on a few laps ago. He's sitting in his pit box at the moment, making that first of 2 mandatory pit stops. So he'll be out and ready and going. In a minute, it's Martin- Pilkington again going deep into there. Bit of an odd one, Aaron, isn't it? It's not really the kind of corner where you'd expect to outbreak yourself, especially when you're all on your own like Mark is at the moment. He's got a fair old gap ahead and behind him. It's a bit of a weird one. Maybe just a lapse of concentration, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know if Steve can get a camera of that corner really for us, because I'm pretty sure there's like a banana skin on the apex, because the way that they're taking it is like they're hugging the inside curb. They're not really taking the corner as it should be taken. And I kind of feel like there's not obviously nothing to avoid on the track, but it's not the first time that we've seen that. Both Martin- Pilkington and 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 will be doing the same thing, and I wonder whether maybe just a few clicks of rear brake bias towards rear brake bias might help them out a little bit, because it looks like they're just braking straight and they really want to be braking around the corner almost. And I kind of feel like a bit more rear brake bias would help them, which they can obviously adjust as they're racing.
Yeah, absolutely. You go race engineer turned commentator, Martin-Pilkington, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you like to hear.
Indeed.
Thinking of things on the fly. Race winner as well, exactly. That is absolutely it. As you see there, 𝗏𝗡𝗏 coming out of the pits, he is behind Rich Smith, who's currently sitting in second place. He's losing time to Robbie Stapleton at the moment. He was a second, 8/10 rather, sorry, adrift of Stapleton's time, 2:18.7 versus 2:19.5 on the last lap. 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗡 is just about teetering around that 5-second mark between himself and Rich Smith, but is importantly continuing to extend the gap to him and Chris Pinchbeck, who is in turn fallen back into the clutches of Regan Mitchell. That is the Lamborghini 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗧 behind 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗡. We were talking, we were wondering, Aaron, whether he would get some nice clean track. That has not happened, but he has got a little bit of a gap behind him. He's got a couple of seconds back to Chris Pinchbeck, and if he's got, it's not the end of the world. He's behind a quick guy. He's not going to get held up by Adam, I don't think. So although he's not come out in complete clear air, it's not ended up too badly for the Lamborghini driver, is it?
No, not really, and it's going to be interesting because, you know, getting to race against Regan Mitchell at Zolder in the Lexus, like something that was mentioned about the Lambo was if you don't treat the tyres nicely, the Lambo doesn't treat you nicely. So he's got to be really careful, especially when they're hitting these curves like we saw 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗡𝗏 hit that inside curve through 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. It's deadly, and it's not the only curve. And if you keep running curbs, you'll lose tyre pressure. So he's got to be really nice. He's got to be assertive, get his lines correct, but he's also got to manage those tyre pressures. So, you know, I feel like a battle is imminent between Regan Mitchell, I think it's Regan Mitchell and 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗡, but he's got to be careful with his tyres. He's got to be mindful.
Absolutely. I think you mean Chris Pinchbeck, but we'll move past that. That's
Yeah,
not a
that's what I
problem
meant.
at all. Rich Smith, as we can see there, he's going in for his first mandatory pit stops. The guys are starting to make those stops now. He's going to be going through the pit lane and wonder how long that's going to take him to get through. I'm just going to have a look. 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's time in pit lane as well. He was in pit lane for 1 minute and 58 seconds. So you would imagine that 1 minute 40, maybe 1 minute 45 is around about the time lost for a tyre change, I would think. Just looking at the amount of time it takes to obviously get through this enormous pit lane here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. It's not the F1 style pit lane, it's not the old school one, it is the combined version, which is, yeah, it's a hellish place to be, especially when you don't have to make a scheduled pit stop. So guys are going to be keeping a fairly keen eye on any track limit penalties or warnings they're accumulating throughout this race. So we'll keep an eye on Rich and see how he comes out. And interestingly, Aaron, I'm going to keep an eye on him to see where Rich comes out in relation to his teammate Dean Riley, because that's really who's the closest man on track to him before the pit stop phase started. So it'll be really interesting to see just how much Dean Riley has put to use of that clear track he's got with him at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, unless Rich Smith has, you know, a shambolic pit stop, serving his first mandatory pit, I kind of feel like he's been really consistent. We haven't been on him much. We haven't seen a whole bunch of him, but he's been keeping Robbie Stapleton true and honest with a decent lead. But he's been maintaining that lead as well. So I don't really see Rich Smith coming out second best to Dean Riley, even though Dean Riley has been pretty, you know, one of the fastest guys on the track right now. I don't see him gaining all that time back on Rich Smith just through this first pit stop.
Interestingly, though, you say that, and I've just noticed Rich Smith is sitting in 10th on the timing chart, but on the little picture in the corner there, you can see, I was just about to confirm, Dean Riley comes out the length of the Kem straight ahead of his teammate.
I'm just going to stop talking.
It's all right. It's to be fair, he was in the pit lane for 1 minute and 56 seconds, Aaron. So that was a lot longer than Dean Riley was, courtesy to the tune of about 12 to 14 seconds, which is arguably around about the time difference between them. It's 16 seconds, so net gain maybe for Dean of about 2 seconds, courtesy of those pit stop times differences as well. So yeah, look, it's understandable. I think if they had gone in for the longer stop, then I think it would have been a lot closer. So you give them the benefit of the doubt.
But the question for me is, did Dean Riley take fuel? Because if he didn't, I think he would have done, just because whilst you're repairing the damage, it makes sense to do that. But you know, if Dean Riley's been running on a lean tank, I kind of feel like Rich Smith has probably like filled his tank right back up again, and he's going to go for a splash and dash. So this lead that we're seeing right now might negate later on in the race. I'm hoping so for my reputation as a commentator. So that's fine. That's right. Yes, that questionable reputation that I have. So yeah, I kind of feel like I'm just trying to provide maybe a professional response to how I made such a cock up.
As I said before, Aaron, speak with confidence and you'll be absolutely fine. Even if it comes out, just style it out. We'll figure something out. We've got plenty of time to style out what's just happened.
style.
Just looking at the timing tower on the left-hand side, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Martin-Pilkington into pit lane as well. So we're starting to see the majority of the grid making those mandatory pit stops. One driver retired at the moment. That was Jonathan Seville a few laps ago. We saw him exit stage left into the chicane, and as a result retired from this race. We're not sure whether that was technical or otherwise. Hope it was, because we never like to see people leave unless there's a technical issue, and we don't want them to leave at all. But if they have to, rather it be a technical issue.
David, it was psychological. He got broken down psychologically by the Serbian stare, man. It was that's what happened. He felt the holes being burnt into the back of his helmet. He's like, no, I'm done, I'm getting off.
I think you need to trademark the Serbian stare. I've got a lot of time for that phrase. And I'm sure Adam would do as well.
Adam's been great so far this race. It's really nice to see him be able to spread his wings. He doesn't have a lot of luck when it comes to league racing, but this is really refreshing and great to see. I think he took 1 minute 57 seconds in the pits, so that's a pretty good time. I'm assuming he took a full tank of fuel with that and a new set of tyres.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just seeing Aaron Walker. Good evening in the chat to Aaron, wondering whether Dean took tyres and Rich took tyres and Dean didn't. It's a very good point, because, like I say, if there's enough fuel, it doesn't negate the amount of time taken to change tyres as well. So it could just be the case that, because obviously he pitted so early, of course, we need to remember the fact that he actually did pit really early, so probably wasn't even necessary to change tyres at that point. He'd have come out on very, very cold rubber as he came out of the pits, just even sat there for a minute or so, but potential that he didn't actually change tyres, and he'll make a change of those in his second pit stop maybe.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that probably would have been the play, really, just because if he's filled his tank whilst he's repairing a damage, and if he takes a set of tyres that early, I would imagine the grip drop off towards the end of that first stint would be tremendous, and the amount of time that he would lose would be huge. So I think that's the play. I definitely think Seville didn't take tyres. When he came out the pits, he was sliding all over the place, struggling to find the grip in the 𝗏𝗏𝗏, and it's an 𝗏𝗏𝗏, so it always has grip. So he definitely had blue tyres there. So yeah, I think that was a play by both of those that got caught up in that first incident.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you've not got grip on an 𝗏𝗏𝗏, it's something you're doing wrong. It's safe to say. You could definitely go with that.
You need to analyse what you're doing wrong if you have no grip on an 𝗏𝗏𝗏.
User error rather than anything else. As Rob Jackson, one of the many Aston Martin drivers this evening, is in pit lane at the moment. One of the AM class drivers in that number 679 machine. 𝗟𝗔𝗡𝗧 is of course going back up the leaderboard, but as one of those drivers not to pit. The top 6 at the moment haven't pit. So Robbie Stapleford still leading the way. He's got an 18-second gap back to 𝗏𝗔𝗏𝗏 at the moment, who's sitting in second place, who's on camera at the moment. He's got 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 within a second and a half behind him as it stands. Simon Wilkes 6 seconds behind that man, and then Martin-Pilkington and 𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 rounding out the top 6, who have, of course, as mentioned there, yet to pit. Everyone else has made one of their 2 mandatory pit stops. See 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 going into the chicane. You can see there the gap behind that very appropriately themed shark liveried Lamborghini of the number 69 car of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the Silver Race team, of course. Him and 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 fighting against Rich Smith and Simon Wilkes in the Simsport Solutions team for the Constructors' Championship. So still plenty to play for in that respect. 80 points is the gap roughly between them. And as we know, Aaron, there's a lot of points on offer, especially in a 2-hour race here at the Simsport GT3 Championship. So still potential, if they can get a few positions up, still potential for them to take that away from the Simsport Solutions guys.
Yeah, absolutely. My eyes right now are really on Robbie Stapleford, who's we maybe saw a glimpse of a threatening Dean Riley before he got undone with that incident with Seville. He yet to take his first pit stop. It's going to be really interesting to see how far he goes with that McLaren before he goes into the pits. Yeah, and as we've seen from pitwall.live, his last lap was very, very slow. So those tyres kind of feel a dropping off. It's been going to that 45-minute mark within the race. I'm assuming he will be going to the pit soon, because otherwise he'll be just unnecessarily losing time to 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who is, a sizable 18 seconds behind, but that can come down really quickly if you don't have the grip.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely spot on, Aaron. And I'm just looking at the timings on pit wall live at the moment. It's a 98-second gap. So a minute and a half back to Rich Smith at the moment, minus the 7 seconds that he's behind Dean Riley. They're doing 2:18.2s at the moment, as opposed to Robbie Stapleton the last lap doing a 2:19.4. And I'm just looking at, of course, the gap between Rich Smith and Robbie Stapleton before the pit stop phase was around about 5 seconds. It's now 7 seconds back between Rich Smith and Dean Riley. So by that logic, and by the impeccable maths that I hold inside my mental arithmetic brain, that would mean that Robbie Stapleton would come out behind Dean Riley. But of course, one thing we need to consider with that is the fact that Dean Riley's going to have to pit a lot earlier towards the back end of this race than Robbie Stapleton will, because he's got to make that one more pit stop. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, but potentially not over yet. Robbie just needs to keep his wits about him. I wonder if he's keeping an eye on the weather, because again, I'm going to come back to it. I've been doing my little rain dance I've been watching the last 15-20 minutes. That wind is coming up, the track temperature's going down, the ambient temperature's going down. I wonder if there's going to be some adverse weather conditions toward the end of this one.
Yeah, ripping that McLaren is going to go a little bit, just a little bit, with that track temperature coming down. There will be a cut-off where there'll be optimum grip, and then it will just start to it'll be in decline after that. And I kind of feel like that's where the Aston Martin, if you've ever driven the Aston Martin at night time around Spa, it just hooks up. It's probably one of the most popular cars around this track, especially in cold weather, because it can maintain that grip. So I have to think, you know, looking at Dean Riley, who I don't think he has taken tyres in that first pit stop. I think he'll be looking to just go on one set of tyres here, if I'm honest. Because if he's looking at the gap that he's got now, maybe he's gonna run these tyres as, you know, as economical as he can. Like, try and not shred them any more than he already has, and just trying to maintain that lap time that he's been doing so far in this race, and just take one set of tyres, because then he'll not like balance out the time in pit lane, if that makes sense. He won't be spending that much more time in pit lane. He'll be out on track, but he's got to be able to manage those tyres if he wants to do that sort of strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a case of, like you say, do you go as fast as you possibly can for 2 hours, or do you try and manage the tyres and potentially gain some of that time back in the pit stop phase? It's an interesting balance call, of course, like you say, because yeah, I mean, which one do? You've got to bear that in mind, not only with your own race, but you've obviously got to consider what everyone else around you is doing as well. And that's one thing that Robbie has done fantastically well in this season. The only time I've really seen him properly under pressure was in the first race of the season, when Luke Whitehead dropped in and did a couple of races for us at the start of the season, and really put the McLaren driver under a lot of pressure in the entirety of that 90-minute race. And up until that point, he's ran relatively unopposed, but it doesn't look that easy for him. It could be the fact that he is just, like you say, he's taking it a bit easy, or he's just not as comfortable as he has been in the other races. The idea of potentially winning the championship for the first time, he's sitting and preying heavily on his young shoulders. We'll only have to wait and see. We're still just over half of this race still to go. I don't think this is set up to be confirmed as to who's going to win this until the last few laps. So don't do that.
I have to agree with you that Robbie Stapleton has been. He's remained relatively untouched, I would say, throughout the championship, but it's not been easy for him. And I kind of feel like this would have been, you know, this could have been the race where he may have not finished first, because the pace that Dean Riley had in the Aston Martin, and it's still yet to unfold, was evidently better. It was evidently more consistent, evidently better, and I kind of feel like this may have been the race that, you know, has broken the story so far in this championship, that Robbie Stapleton has been unbeatable. I really do believe that Dean Riley could have you know, had an opportunity to get the win here at Spa.
Absolutely.
Still does, but potentially still does.
Yeah, I was going to say there's still a potentially that being has a chance, because he's 80 seconds behind. It's a 1:40 pit stop, and that's he's now 1:20 adrift of Robbie Stapleton. You're looking, like I say it's a 1:40, like that's exactly what time will be. It's looking around about that, if not more, of course, if you change tyres as well. That's a 20-second, potentially minimum 20-second net gap that Dean Riley's going to have at the front of this, because he's had that free track position. And didn't obviously change tyres in the first place. So he's gone the right way about it as the Aston Martin driver so far. He's done what he needed to do. He's in clear air still. He's got 20 odd seconds. He's 24 seconds, ahead of him on the road to 𝗏𝗏𝗘𝗧. That's still got plenty of time before he comes in. You'd expect that Mark will pit before that becomes an issue for the 𝗏𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗏 machine. So there's still potential for this to change completely, as we see 𝗏𝗔𝗟𝗘𝗏𝗏, we're looking through the rear splitter of the Simsport Racing number 43 Aston Martin at the moment. It's got 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘 tearing down behind him, track temperature dropping ever more as we continue towards 6 p.m. in server time at the moment here at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. Robbie Stapleton's still leading the way, but 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘 is putting that second position of 𝗏𝗔𝗟𝗏𝗏 under increasing pressure, isn't he, Aaron? He's certainly winding the wick up, and it's not, like I say, I've said it many times before, and I'm going to say it once more now. It's not the least intimidating livery to have right behind you in your rearview mirror, is it, that Lamborghini?
No, definitely. It is very, very intimidating. But for the mind of 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘, watch it, getting the golden seat to watch 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 go round the outside and hold the outside round the common 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. You really can't be doing that in a Lamborghini. I'm sorry, it won't handle it very well. He doesn't like being offline. So if he wants to try and get around 𝗏𝗔𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏, I kind of feel like he's gonna, yes, think outside the box, but do it in a way that doesn't compromise his line too much. So maybe, the Lamborghini's got a great top end. I kind of feel like the mid-engine cars always do. So maybe just getting that toe and go for a late breakdown into the bus stop would probably be the most sensible option for 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘. But I can't see him trying to get around the outside of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the Aston Martin.
That ruined my question there, Aaron. I was actually going to say, do you wonder if he was going to use that? He's going to use the visuals of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's move and try and do the same thing himself. But you've, I hope he doesn't do it now, because it would put your reputation on even more tenterhooks than it was already.
If it happens,
earlier comment. If it
again.
does happen, I will finish this off solo. It's fine. If you don't want to carry on, that's okay. We could sort something out. But it is, like you say, he might have to go for a slightly unorthodox move, but if there's one person who's going to be able to do that and do it with aplomb, it is 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘, isn't it? He is the kind of guy who will bring out an overtake in one of the areas you just wouldn't necessarily expect, because he's just got a really, really smart head on his shoulders, because he just seems to know. He seems to almost size people up, doesn't he? He uses a couple of laps. He's not going for the move too early. He's going to find out where Chris is slow, find out where he's susceptible to the move, and he'll go for it. And that's how he makes those moves work so well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's to really get a, if you've never spoken to 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘 before or new to the community, he is the guy that drove the Maserati in the GT4s. He knows all about control, measured control, being able to, get the best out of a car that you can't push. You can't be aggressive with it. And I think that in some ways the Lamborghini is the same. You've got to be really smooth with it. So, he does pick the cars that require precision, and that will be the same. That will be reflected in an overtake with 𝗏𝗔𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. He'll have to be precise with it. He'll have to choose his moment and make it stick. But I don't think it's going to be anything unorthodox like we saw from 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Yeah, absolutely. We see Simon Wilkes, one of the higher position drivers, going into the pits at the moment. That's going to promote 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, Dean Riley, Rich Smith, and Adam Misalovic at least up a few positions. As you see, Rob Jackson, we're currently riding alongside, is going into Les Combes. As you see, there you go, 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘, very aggressive up the top of Radion and onto the Kemmel Straight. He's not quite got the chance to get into the toe too much on this occasion, and I think that is his teammate 𝗬𝗢𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 ahead of him on track. Wonder if we're going to see something a little bit shifty going on at the moment. It definitely is. It's a Aston Martin in a Lamborghini sandwich, and it's a Lamborghini Shark-based sandwich as well, which is not going to be something you want to be in at the moment. You see Martin-Pilkington going into the pits. Well, he's going to release Dean Riley up a couple of positions as well. It looked like Mark maybe had an issue a couple of laps before, because I've just looked at the gap between the two of them, and he was 12 seconds ahead. In fact, no, that's probably just lost by the time going through the pit lane. But 𝗬𝗏𝗞𝗘 starting again, or continuing, shall I say, to size up a move on this Aston Martin. And yeah, Aaron, he's got the perfect man in front of the Aston Martin as well, hasn't he?
I wonder whether 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 has realised the dilemma that he's in right now. Has he realised that he must have realised it's a Lamborghini in front of him, and it also happens to be the teammate of the Lamborghini behind him, and he's in a Lamborghini sandwich right now. I kind of feel like 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, obviously he's under blue flags, but he's got to get past that. He's got to get past 𝗏𝗏𝗏 as quickly as possible. I really do believe that, and it might require maybe a bit of outlandish heavy braking into the bus stop or La Source or something, but he's got to get past 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Absolutely, we'll keep a keen eye on this battle to see where it comes on. On your left-hand side, we've got the front splitter of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. On the right-hand side, you've got that rear spoiler. I can't begin to imagine what team he represents based on what it says on that spoiler. I don't know about you, Aaron. I don't know if it's very clear. For those of you at home, as 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 peels to the left-hand side, and in a slightly surprising turn of events, should we say, although we've we've thought up many conspiracies for it, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 gets out of the way nice and cleanly of the Aston Martin and does the same for his teammate in the Lamborghini as well. So it's as you were, still running line astern between the two, but 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 just let those guys through on the start-finish straight, which was very sensible and good to see. No gamesmanship from the treble 4 machine car as they go steaming up the hill onto the cable straight for the 25th time of asking. We're just coming up to half distance. Track and ambient temperature continue to drop, wind continuing to rise, still with the possibility of some adverse weather on the horizon with an hour and 3 minutes left to go. Looks like 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 has made a move in the pit stop phase. He's managed to get himself back. Managed to get himself in front of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. We talked, Darren, about how difficult Ash was looking to try and find a way around Mark on track. We know how good of a defensive driver the treble 6 Bentley driver is. Clearly, the strategy has paid dividends in the end.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it. You know, you said that 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 would possibly potentially benefit from pitting a little bit early. He kind of stayed out, I think, a little bit too long in that battle with Martin-Pilkington. We saw him, you know, brake super late in some of the corners around here at Spa, and yeah, he's benefited now, and that's what matters. He's gaining a comfortable distance to Martin-Pilkington, and he's looking on at Jackson in the 679 Aston Martin. That'll be his next target.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to know, I've just looked at the pit stop times for the two of them as well. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was actually in the pit lane for 2 minutes and 6 seconds, which is 9 seconds longer than Martin-Pilkington. So clearly, like you say, getting on that fresh rubber, the undercut has proven very, very handy indeed. And you just have to try and, let's say, keep etching out that gap. Hopefully not get stuck behind Rob Jackson, who you can see on screen at the moment. He's got Martin-Pilkington just in front of him, and I say just in front, to the tune of 0.4 of a second. So he's very, very close between these two. Chris Pinchback, oh, he's got Regan Mitchell looking at the inside into the bus stop chicane. It was a little bit of a late move for the Aston Martin, and again, very, very I mean, obviously he is entitled to do that. He is going into the pits, as you can see on camera, but it was a little bit sneaky, wasn't it, Aaron? just went across very late, and just made Regan just get off the power a little bit. Very sneaky indeed. Where is he going to come out, though? I do wonder. We'll have to keep an eye on him because, of course, saw it before. He was about 5 seconds behind this man, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, on track. So we'll see just how powerful the undercut or how powerful the overcut is. What do you think?
Well, I kind of feel like he's going to be taking tyres here, right? And he's going to be taking. I mean, at this stage, I think this is his first pit stop, so he'll be looking at a medium tank, 30 minutes of fuel, I reckon. I think he'll go 50-50 here. He might pit around the 30-minute mark for his last mandatory pit stop. So he's going to be running relatively low fuel. He's going to be running the lowest fuel he probably has for this race so far, with a fresh set of tyres. So even if he does end up behind 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which I believe he will do because he has been battling immensely with Regan Mitchell. Both, actually, him and Regan Mitchell have been running 220s compared to Dean Riley's 218s. So yeah, they've been slightly slower in terms of lap times. I think Adam's got this in the bag.
Yeah, exactly. Just coming through the bus stop chicane now, so it looks like a sure done thing, considering Pinchy's just gone into his pit box. Dean Riley as well is serving his final and his second and final mandatory pit stop, as is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 at the back of the field at the moment. So this is really interesting, isn't it? Because obviously I personally was expecting that Robbie Staplewood would come in before Dean serves his final pit stop, but no splash. I mean, it is going to be a splash and dash for Robbie at the end, you would have to imagine. Again, I wonder if he's just waiting for any sort of any dodgy weather to come in. As you see 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 going a slightly different way through there. Yeah, maybe a lack of grip going up there as you see Pinchbeck coming out of the pits. Yeah, it's a massive lead, almost the length of the Kemmel Straight for the Ferrari drivers. Robbie Stapleford, our leader, does now come into the pits. So I wonder if he's seen, right, Riley's coming for his second pit stop. That's me, given the ability. I can just kind of cover him off a little bit now, go in for my first one, get that done, and probably, like you say, just run it as long as he can, fill the car up, and then just go for a little splash and dash at the end.
Yeah, I mean, for Dean Riley, he's serving his last pit stop right now. He's within, he can certainly run a full tank of fuel and get to the end with a fresh set of tyres as well. His lap times will be a little bit slower, but not really. You know, he's still going to be looking at the low 18s, especially in these track conditions. I have to say, though, track conditions here in this 2-hour race have been, I would say, somewhat volatile. You don't really usually see, well, it's been, what, 10 degrees? It's been declined 10 degrees Celsius we've lost so far in this race, and it's only been an hour. So you don't really usually see these kind of, like, differences only in endurance racing, not in what I would say is a 2-hour sprint race. So this is going to be really interesting, because have the guys set their cars up for this, you know, all their tire pressures in their pit strategy. This is bringing something else into this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just picking up on what we were talking about a few laps ago, and we were talking about obviously how we saw a few people miss their braking point into 𝗏𝗡𝗎𝗂. I was just looking at the wind, and I have now officially clocked on the fact that it is following whatever direction the car is driving in. There is actually a tailwind going into 𝗏𝗡𝗎𝗂, so it's potentially meaning they're not braking as early as they would normally, so need to brake a little bit earlier than they normally do. And that's causing them to run a little bit wide. That's what I'm going to go with anyway. Again, speak with confidence, people will believe everything you say. So Rob Jackson still very close behind Martin-Pilkington. Ash Cooperman's a couple of seconds back as Regan Mitchell now pits from second place. So we're going to see where he comes out in the grand scheme of things around Chris Pinchbeck as well. We'll keep a keen eye on them to see where they come out. But Rob Jackson's a good race so far in the Badger Sports 679 Aston Martin. Really wants to make this move stick to try and take that AM class win though, doesn't he, Aaron? Because he's been very, very close to Martin through the last couple of laps. Doesn't seem to have made a move stick at the moment as Martin-Pilkington shifts to the inside, takes the middle line of the track. Wouldn't say he was shifting under braking, he's just taking that line through into the bus stop chicane. You see Ash Cooperman waiting in the background to pick up any pieces of anything that could potentially happen. Dean Riley back down to 12th now, behind everyone barring 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who is another driver who has made both of his mandatory pit stops at this point. And Rob Jackson, like I say, he's riding very quickly. He's not doing a bad job whatsoever. Just doesn't seem to have the speed in the right areas of the track, does he, Aaron, to try and make this move on Martin-Pilkington. It just seems like he's just almost stuck behind him at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I agree with you. It's incredibly frustrating if you have the overall lap time, but if you don't have the pace in the sectors where you need it for the overtaking opportunities, it can become incredibly infuriating. It almost reminds you of the crossbow, where it can be rapid in pace, but if you can't, you know, it'll lose so much on the straights, which is where all the overtaking gets done. So I kind of feel like it's a little bit of the same here for Rob Jackson. It's not down to the car, maybe it's down to his confidence with the Aston Martin, and also maybe down to the track temperatures decreasing so volatile.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the timing boards as well. So Robbie Stapleford came into the pits. That was a 1 minute 54 stop, so nearly a lap of this circuit, which tells you just how long that pit stop phase is. 2 seconds quicker than Rich Smith, who pitted 10 laps before him. Interestingly though, timing very, very close indeed. Only 3 seconds between them, which is of course very similar to what it was on the in the first pit stop, in the first phase of this race before they came in for their first pit stop. So Rich is really doing a fantastic job in that Simsport Racing Rouge car, the number 76 Aston Martin. He's really doing a fantastic job of maintaining that gap between Robbie Stapleford.
Wow.
And like I say, if you look at that, I mean, I still think this is Dean Riley's race to win at the moment, because yes, there's a massive gap behind them. But if Dean was in front of Rich by quite a distance anyway, you'd have to assume if he can keep that on the back stuff to the end, yes, Robbie's going to pit very late, and you'd imagine he's going to potentially try and take some fresh tyres and just literally blitz it for the last maybe 15 minutes of the race. But I can't see Dean not coming out at the start, at the front of the grid at the end of this one.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a great recovery drive if he has. I mean, yeah, all the facts point towards it. He's been absolutely flying in the Aston Martin. How to say though, it's also great to Rich Smith here. We've been just over an hour in this race, and it's still 3.5 seconds difference to Robbie Stapleford. So they both relatively had good pits, it looks like. but or I would say identical pit stops, because I mean 1 second between the pit stops as we're hearing. I mean, that's pretty close, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is doing a fantastic job to keep that time. But like you say, the person out of this picture right now is 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. Where would he fit in towards the end of this race? I honestly don't know. I would love to believe, David, that he is going to come in and clutch this, but I just don't know. I mean,
I genuinely think he is going to come out at least 10-15 seconds ahead. So what it's all about, I've seen this. I saw this at a race at Spa about a month or two ago when I commentated on it in another series, and the same thing happened. One of the drivers came in early, didn't change his tyres. Obviously, it's one mandatory pit stop in that one rather than two who got hit, but didn't change his tyres to get track position. And the man who changed his tyres didn't win the race, but it went down to the final corner. It went down to this chicane here, and I think the gap in the end over the finish of the lap was a 0.2 of a second. So it's really going to go down to it. It's 80 seconds the gap between Riley and Stapleford at the moment. So it's definitely a chance with no change of tyres, even with that in mind, that Robbie Stapleford is going to be around about 15 to 20 seconds behind 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. So I still think, like I say, I am convinced, and I will consider myself correct until proven otherwise, that 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 will come out in the lead and will have a very, very good chance, despite the incidents he had in that first phase of the race with Jonathan. I do think he's going to come out and win this one. But there's still 53 minutes left. There's still plenty of time for things to change. It's now getting cloudier on the circuit. The wind has died a little bit, but the track is getting cooler. This race is far from over, even with just under halfway to go.
Yeah. No, I actually, when you break it down for me, David, I can see how you're coming to that conclusion. I'm not saying it's the right conclusion. I'm just saying I understand that conclusion. I made so many mistakes so far in this race.
That was it's a fantastically politically way of putting it, Aaron, I've got to say.
I'm learning. I hope it was good. That was good. But I have to say, though, on that last lap, 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 at the moment doing 2:20s and Smith doing 18.5s. So I don't know. Like you said, I know what you're saying, though, because essentially 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏's going to have to manage his tyres a lot better, but they will have a drop-off point. His lap times will come down, but it'll be towards the end of the race. But he would have gained time through the pits, and then he'll end up being in front of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. But then 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 will have the grip on his tyres, and he'll be putting in faster lap times, and then two will come together in the very end, the end of this race, when everything's said and done. Those two will be battling. Is that? I can agree with that. Is that what you're saying, David?
It's a very fair summation, and it's certainly going to make the last 53 minutes of this race very, very interesting indeed. As I've just noticed that Robbie Stapleford, sorry, I wasn't Robbie Stapleford. Robbie Stapleford went fastest originally with a 2:17.9. Guess who then went faster than him with a 2:17.7? It was 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So we're talking about all these timings and everything like that. It's incredible the fact that Dean has been caught up in the incidents. He's just using that track, that gaps he's got on track at the moment to his absolute advantage. He's got 9 seconds to Martin-Pilkington. Of course, now one thing we need to consider is the fact that, like I say, Mark's not the kind of person who's just going to get out of your way. It doesn't matter whether you're in a different phase of the race or not. He will fight for every position, and I love that about him because he never gives up on any position whatsoever. So he's not going to make that pass easy for Dean. So he's still got to get round him somehow. It's going to be look, we'll see what happens, but it's going to be a very interesting end to this race. One thing we can focus on now, though, is this battle between Rob Jackson and Martin-Pilkington. 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 goes wide coming out of Stavelot, and that's going to give Rob the chance. He's alongside going up towards Blomström. He's actually ahead of 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 as they come up towards the back straight. He's going to be outside line. It's going to be very, very close between the two of them. Jackson goes wide. He's going to have to yield to the position back to Martin-Pilkington, but he's very close. Martin-Pilkington goes wide as they go into the bus stop chicane. Rob Jackson's just not close enough again. Aaron, he gets so close. He's going to try the cut, but the switchback as they go through the bus stop chicane, and he's going to have a fantastic run going into the source. But every time he gets into a position where he can make a move, something doesn't come right for him, where his car's not in the right position or something like that. He just cannot physically get past this Ferrari. It must be the most infuriating thing to be in the cockpit of that man at this moment in time.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit more assertion in his commitment. You know, he had the side-by-side there. He should have been really going really like door-to-door with 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 in the Ferrari. Make that Ferrari go round and follow that white line, you know, compromise it. He left so much room there. I understand why you don't want to get into a bit of a tussle, and, you know, with ACC, door banging doesn't really work, but you can really compromise someone like, you know, with Adam did at 𝗬𝗲𝗡𝗧. You've got to be looking to do that. You've got to be looking to slow the other driver down when you have such drive. You know, and he gave him trap position going through 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and when you do that, you're really going to have to let off, because there's only really one line through 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So, you know, he had that drive, he just didn't have the commitment there.
Absolutely, it's all bringing Ashley Coupland into the fray as well. Martin-Pilkington is 5 seconds behind this group. He'll be coming from Brussels any second now. Can't quite see him on the camera at the moment, but Rob Jackson is really trying to make a move stick on Martin-Pilkington. It's been a matter of about 6 or 7 laps, by my recollection, that the Aston Martin of the Badger Sport car has been sat behind the number 488 machine of Martin-Pilkington, and like you say, just can't get that move done on the 𝗬𝗎𝗓𝗏 car at this moment in time. They're running in the 2:21s right now, which is really showing you the amount of time they're losing, considering the battles they're going on. You see Ash Coupland again. I don't know what it is, Aaron. He gets caught up in things, and he just seems to go a little bit deep into a corner, into a braking zone, and just loses a bit of time, doesn't he? Just seems to be getting a bit hot and heavy, maybe not judging the braking zones of the cars in front of him as well as he could potentially be. But we see Rob Jackson again using the slipstream down the back straight as they go into 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. He's going to try and get the run into the bus stop chicane. You would imagine Pilkington's going to cover the inside. It looks like he is. Jackson shapes to the outside. Little bit of drifting under brakes from Pilkington again. It's taking the line, but it's borderline. It's a little bit dodgy, if I may say so myself. I'm not a steward in this, unfortunately. So they get very, very close in that little concertina effect through the bus stop chicane, and I think this is going to be Martin's chance. Oh, sorry, it's going to be Rob's chance rather to make that move. Takes a nice line through La Source. He's got Ash Coupland to worry about as well. So any move he does, it's got to be assertive, like you said, Aaron, because if he doesn't make the move stick, he's going to get past himself. Yeah,
I would love to see the the wheel and pedal inputs here of Rob Jackson, just because, like, he just seems on every mechanical grip corner, on every sharp corner, the back end's just scrolling out a little bit. It looks like the car wants to rotate more, but the traction control's kicking in, and I would feel from Rob Jackson's point of view, he's just stamping that throttle out of the corner, because you can do that. You know, the Aston Martin does invite you to do that, but he has no measure of that throttle right now. You know, he's getting great runs, and then when he gets a great run, he just wants to plant his foot down, and the back end just looks like, he's like, no, you can't do that, I'm sorry, and it's just stopping him from doing a donut, especially in that last bus stop. So he just needs to, you can see him building the pressure. He just needs to have that final little bit of execution, and I think he'll make this move stick.
Yeah, absolutely. Still plenty of time left for him to do it. 47 minutes left in this race. We're nearly at 2/3 distance in this one. Robbie Stapleford still leads the way, setting a couple of 2:17 times at the moment, doing a fantastic job out in front, extending the gap to Rich Smith as it stands. He did a purple middle sector on the last lap. Adam Zalewicz doing a fantastic job in that treble 11 piston heads Ferrari, sitting in 3rd place, 16 seconds behind the Aston Martin of Smith at the moment. Regan Mitchell and Chris Pinchbacker in 4th and 5th, with Simon Wilkes in 6th. And then we come back to this battle on your screen at the moment from the cockpit of Rob Jackson. Gets a really good run into 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 on the inside. This is a really interesting place to go. Ash Coupland, I can see in the mirror, is going to be appearing on the left-hand side in a minute. It's going to be going nearly 3 wide as we go down the back straight. Perfect spot to see. You see Coupland very sensibly. He shapes to just disappear out of that for a second. Yeah, just cuts out. Doesn't want to get caught up in this one. We need to fight as well. It's much better for him just to wait and see what happens. Again, Jackson to the outside. Pilkington does that move. Doesn't do it as aggressively as he has done on the last couple of laps. And let's see if Jackson can use that throttle pedal, use the inputs correctly, not get a little bit too over happy on the accelerator pedal, and just gets a good run up the start-finish straight into La Source for the 32nd time for these guys. Like I say, 47 minutes remaining. The wind is starting to die down, so I think the adverse weather looks to be disappearing at this point. So we might have a dry finish to this race. Martin-Pilkington is catching at the rate of 1.5 seconds per lap. You can see him just in the background, and Rich Smith is 3 seconds behind him as well. So this triplet's going to become a quintet soon as Rob Jackson goes very wide up onto the Kemmel straight. He's going to look to try and do something again, Aaron. He's too far back. He cannot get the right run here at the moment.
Yeah, and with these lap times, you know, really taking a hit right now in the 220s, 221s we've seen before, that's like 4 seconds slower than 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓, and 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓 is, I think that's 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓 just behind there, coming through Lecombe. Yeah, it's 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓 who's coming up to this battle. You said that he's looking to get that clean air and make that leapfrog that he's done in the pit so well. If he catches onto this battle right now, there is no blue flag. He will have to make the overtake stick, and he's got Martin-Pilkington just ahead of him. That's a mission in itself, and then you've got 3 cars battling away, and they're not going to give you the time of day either. This is going to be really hard for 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓 now. If he can pull this off, it will be down to how well he can get past these cars.
As we see Rob Jackson down the inside into 𝗚𝗢𝗚𝗏 on 𝗪𝗔𝗏𝗏 went wide there through the double apex left-hander. Rob Jackson's still just about alongside, just has to dip into the, just dip in behind the Ferrari as they go into 𝗬𝗎𝗪. Again, Martin takes the nice tight line through there. Looks like Rob Jackson's just trying to open it up. He goes wide through the second apex. A little bit of jumping on, a little bit of a twitch as he came out of there, getting all kinds of crossed up as he goes into the right-hander down towards Stavolo, into Campus and into Stavolo now onto the back straight. Copeland is really the one who's looking to make the move now, but like you said, Aaron, this is make or break for 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓's race, because yeah,
there he is.
We're talking about how difficult it is to get past Martin-Pilkington. We know that. That Bentley is wide enough as it is, but when you've got Martin-Pilkington behind the wheel of it as well, it's not even going to be any wide. It's going to be even wider than it already is. And he's then got to try and get past these 3 as well, who are battling for position on track. This is not going to end well, I don't think, and I'm really worried as to what's going to happen. Copeland goes really deep. Oh, he just goes through the middle of the 2 of them. Rob Jackson's just had a proper Code Brown moment there, as is Martin-Pilkington. Goodness me. I said it was going to end in tears. It just about did, and Copeland's gone into the pits, I think.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, probably a good job. I mean, he's got no brakes left by the looks of it, looking at how he misjudged that braking point there. Goodness me, and it was a quintet. It was nearly a quintet. It's now a quartet, because you can see how close these guys are. But it's done 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓 a favour, because there's now 1 less car ahead of them, Aaron.
It's 1 less car ahead of him, but also they're evenly spread out. Before it was kind of like 3 battling away, then Mark was by himself and 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓 was catching. Now it's, you know, looking at it from this point of view, it looks much more manageable and easier for 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓 to break down if it's just 1 car at a time. You know, I think that was a lucky break there for 𝗤𝗏𝗏, and I don't think Rob Jackson's going to be letting him go anytime soon. I think that was great decision from Copeland though to get into the pits, just hit the reset button. Things are getting too hot. It might be it's been certainly really hot these past couple of weeks. He might be sweating in his sim rig right now. So just, you know, get a towel, you know, wipe the brow and crack on. And I think that's a really good idea from Copeland.
Yeah, absolutely, and like we said, we go back to, like I say, it's a reset button, but it's also a chance for him to get into some clean air. We saw how well he used that in the first, going into the second stint, past Martin-Pilkington and gained some time as well. As you see, 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓 going round the outside, he's actually let him through. He's let him through.
I'm up word to him later.
We've been taking away the chance of some brilliant defensive manoeuvring from Martin-Pilkington. We're going to go to a replay now. This is from the cockpit of Ashley Copeland in the Aston Martin. We're going to see exactly what happens. It comes through Blanchimont, foot into the floor. A little bit of dirty air provokes some understeer. And what happens here is he just looks, he misses his braking point. Those guys are braking early. Oh, that is so close. Unfortunately, just dips into the escape road. Just about got out of the way. But, oh, that was a little bit scary, wasn't it, Aaron, to say the least?
Yeah, that was definitely scary. And he's letting him pass. Don't let him pass. What's going on here? What is happening here?
We're having any form of battle for this lead taken away from us, because these lot are just going, I know Dean's quicker than me. I don't normally do this, but it's the last race of the season. I'm just going to let him go. Has someone been in the Discord this evening saying to Dean, look, we just need to let him have his win and we'll see what happens with it, because it's like he's got team orders over the entire field. That's two people now have just gotten straight out of the way for him. Unbelievable stuff.
I mean, I think maybe they think it's a sensible approach. You know, someone that's abundantly faster by quite a few seconds per lap is, you know, when you see them rocket up in your rear view, you start driving in your mirror. And, you know, that just hampers your lap time. So we can see Ādams Asalović making his final pit stop here. This is going to be interesting to see where he comes out, because he was quite a big margin ahead of Chris Pinchbeck, and he was looking maybe, I think, 10 seconds behind Rich Smith. So he's looking comfortable, but this 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗓𝗓 on a mission right now could oust him out off a podium finish.
Absolutely. It's going to be really interesting to see how this final 40 minutes does play out. Like I say, weather seems to have stabilised. It's getting a bit sunnier again the circuit at the moment, wind has died down, so it looks like we're going to have a dry end to this race, which is, to be fair, what I'm quite intrigued to see, because I don't want to see any weather impact what's going to be happening with Dean at the moment. He's all over the back of Martin-Pilkington as they go through Brussels and into No Name, down the hill towards Corn. He's going to go for the switchback move. Really, really nicely worked by Riley there. He's going to get alongside Martin-Pilkington, who is not going to make it as easy as the last two guys did, which is nice to see. He's leading the AM class at the moment. A little bit of contact between them. 𝗪𝗏𝗧 just shakes to the outside and lives to fight another day. But Dean Riley, two people got out of his way. One of them, dare I say, kind of just shifted him out of the way a little bit there. Not too aggressive, but he's up into 7th place. Sorry, he's up into 6th place, and he's going to now continue to hunt them down. Next up on his radar is Simon Wilkes, who's about half a minute ahead on track, but has to do his final pit stop as well.
I mean, I think that was really a game changer there. Those 4 cars could have really hindered his race, and I think that was a great that couldn't have gone any sweeter for him, really. He had track position going down to 𝗬𝗏𝗡, going around the outside, trying to make it around the outside and match an Aston Martin around the outside of 𝗬𝗏𝗡 in a Ferrari is just not going to happen. It's not going to go. So yeah, kind of saw that coming with a little bit of door bang in there, and he's through, he's plain sailing. And yeah, there's so much time to the car up, the next car in line, and he's got no pit stops remaining. So I have to say, your predictions, it's coming to fruition, and I kind of feel like Robbie Stapleton could be in for a challenge here.
Yeah, he's definitely under a bit of pressure, but like I say, 38 minutes still to go. There's still plenty of chances, depending on whether these guys are ahead of Dean Riley pit or not. So they are going to be, in the nice way possible, they are going to be slightly quicker than the ones he's gotten past already. Of course, we've got a couple of the guys in the AM class that he's had to deal with so far, and of course, as we said, a couple of them got out of the way. Martin-Pilkington is now peeled into pit lane to serve his final mandatory pit stop of this evening. So, yeah, look, it looks like it's penned in for a Dean Riley win. Obviously, things can change. There's still 38 minutes left. Still plenty of chance for things to change before the end of this race. We ride on board with Martin 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 in the treble 6 positive perception Bentley at the moment. Of course, he was renowned for his defensive driving, but didn't necessarily do that against Dean Riley, which was a bit of a shame, because I like to see what Mark does. It's always fantastic to watch him at work.
Oh, these championships!
Exactly.
Yeah. I kind of feel like we got the starter, and then we just missed the main course, and then straight to dessert. I kind of feel like watching Martin 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏's take on the world on his shoulders is part and parcel of every GT3 race, and I just got robbed of it.
Yeah, and then you normally get people moaning, despite the fact he's defending his position on the lead lap. So I love to see it, but unfortunately we didn't get it that time. There's still potential though. I mean, he's got 21 seconds back to him for staying passable, but of course with other people due to pit as well, there's every chance that he could come out potentially. I mean, obviously he's still got to pit as well, but if Robbie Stapleton pitted before him, you could hold him up as well. You never know, and that's the beauty of this race, because we've added that extra pit stop for this evening's race. Of course, all the other 5 rounds prior to this have been 1 pit stop and a 90-minute race. Of course, this being a 2-hour race, we've got the additional second mandatory pit stop, but still with the 3 sets of tyres available, it adds that extra element of jeopardy. And what I'm seeing is we're seeing obviously one man who pitted very early, of course, Dean Riley on your screen at the moment, who obviously pitted early because we're coming together with Jonathan Seville on the first couple of laps. Understandable, potentially fixed a bit of damage. Didn't take tyres from what we understand, just fixed any damage that was there. Robbie Stapleton pitted, 5-10 laps ago, and will not do his final pit stop, you would imagine, until the last couple of laps, whereas Dean Riley has finished his pit stop. So it's really interesting to see how these strategies are playing out. We don't know, obviously, if Dean's was forced or whether it was elected to do because of everything that happened, but it's really good to see that there's still a lot to play for in terms of what this is going to look like at the end. And for the one, like I say, I think I know who I've got an idea as to who I think is going to win, but it's the beauty of these races. You don't know until the final lap and the final corner and the final lap.
Yeah, and I have to say as well that I mean, Dean Riley doesn't really have any lifelines left. The track conditions keep decreasing. We're now at 16-16, and if you didn't set your tyre pressures, I mean, when he went into the pits, it was probably like 19, so you're talking 3 degrees difference, and we're not just talking track, we're also talking ambient as well. So, you know, that might be having an adverse effect on his tyres, but that's something that Robbie Stapleton will have in his back pocket, is that he will be able to go into the pits and adjust his tyre pressures to follow whatever whatever the track conditions will be at that time. So he's kind of got a bonus here. He's kind of got a lifeline. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 doesn't. So if he's suffering here with maybe, you know, he's looking at 26 psi tires because they're not warming up enough, then this could be having an effect, might take an effect in his lap times. But it isn't at the moment. It really isn't. He's still doing really good times at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You see Robbie Stapleford cross the line to go on to lap number 37 just now, a 2:17.8. On the last lap it was a 2:18.1, sorry, pretty much 2:18.2, and there was 3 thousandths of a second between the lap times of 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 and Robbie Stapleford. So they are matching each other at every single possible point that they can. And with 5 people ahead of him still to pit, it's just a case of, look, let's just wait and see. We've got 34 minutes left, 5 people ahead of him still to pit, 7 in total that still need to serve their final mandatory pit stop. Those people are Robbie Stapleford, Rich Smith, Regan Mitchell, Chris Pinchbeck, Simon Wilkes, Mark 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. All of them still have to pit. Everyone else has done their pit stops, so 6 of them have completed their mandatory set. We've got to wait and see how it all shakes out, but still plenty to play for, and I would implore you, for those of you who are watching, thank you for sticking around already, but I would implore you not to disappear, because there is still a hell of a lot to play for coming towards this last half an hour of well, not of this race only, but this season. And as you can see, we're going to go for a rinse and repeat of what we had a few laps ago, because look who's here. We've got Martin-Pilkington, we've got Rob Jackson, and look who's behind them. It's Ash Copeland, and I've been guaranteed by our broadcast director Steve Proudley that it is definitely not a replay. It just is extremely similar to what we've seen before, and I'm very much looking forward to this, Aaron.
Yeah, this is fantastic, and it just goes to show that, you know, that reset button that was it Rob Jackson hit. No, it wasn't Rob Jackson. It was Copeland, wasn't it? Yeah. It was Copeland went into the pit. It really benefited him because he's straight back on the battle of this trio here. He's at the back. He's probably in the best place, and he'll be able to assess where he went wrong last time. Kind of, you know, losing the brakes in the bus stop is mistake number 1. You don't want to do that again. I don't think he'll be that lucky this time, because he really did miss the back of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 by like a horse's hair. So, you know, he'll be looking to just kind of mediate his throttle, mediate his brakes, and just be calm about it. He's got plenty of time. 30 minutes, a lot can happen in 30 minutes, especially if you're not trying to bustle past people. If this is a battle that you can see happening for the, you know, that you're going to be part of for the remainder of the race, then you can just take your time with it and really assess where the other driver's strengths and weaknesses are at Spa.
Yeah, absolutely. As you see, Ash Copeland going into the bus stop chicane, weaving a little bit under brakes. Again, it just looked like he was worrying that he might not have got it stopped. See, I think that's Chris Pinchbeck going into the pits there. Simon Wilkes, sorry, going into the pits there. We'll see that P pop up against his name as he's serving his final mandatory pit stop now. But yeah, Aaron, it's really good, isn't it? Because yes, it's the final race of the season. It is one of those where a lot of championships are almost, if not completely, they're pretty much wrapped up at this point, including the AM class. Of course, Sebastian Vettel there not able to race, but I do understand he's got enough of a gap to potentially win the AM championship. This is fighting for a class win. Martin-Pilkington leading the AM class at the moment. Rob Jackson and Ash Copeland all in that class as well, and there's a second and a half between them. So it's great to see. Despite it's the final race, of course, we've got the summer break at Simsport Racing heading up after this, where we'll go in to do a lot of races outside of championships after this point. But it's really good to see that after all of the racing we've done, these guys are still going at it, and they're still treating this with the same amount of integrity and the same amount of passion as they always would. And it's made for fantastic racing so far this evening.
Yeah, there's always battles, you know, not battles, sorry. There's always pros and cons to having like two categories, like almost like a multi-class race, really, multi-category race with the pros and the AMs, because, you know, it does reduce some of the field in the pros. Like some people like to have a bigger field, but what we're seeing here is 3 people that are almost level, slightly off the pro pace, which they would be because they're in the AM category, but they're having great racing, and they're still racing for something. You know, they're still racing for that class win, which is just as important as the pro class win. So I have to say that, you know, this is one of the biggest pros for multi-class racing, is that you have these great battles up and down the field. It's not all about finishing first overall. It's also about finishing first in your class, and this is what this battle's all about.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. You see Rich Smith going into pit lane. Martin 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's pit as well, so he's not going to be causing any of the front runners any issues when they do come in for their final pit stops. Again, we'll have to keep an eye out on the difference between Rich Smith and Dean Riley before the end of this one. It was a 21-second gap, as you might have seen on the timing tower just then before. Rich Smith went into the pits between him and Robbie Stapleford, so keep an eye on the gap between Riley and Smith once Rich comes out of his pit stop and completes his final mandatory stop, because that's going to be key for us to really get an idea as to whether Dean Riley's got the pace to take this victory or not. At the moment, though, the focus is on, like you said before, the battle for this AM class victory, this final race of the season here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps here in Belgium for the Simsport Racing GT3 Championship season number 6. And it's going down to the wire for these guys. And like you say, it is that beauty of multi-class in inverted commas racing. They're all in the same machinery, all in the same class of car, but the class of drivers is meaning that these guys have got something to fight for down towards the back end of the grid, which is exactly what we want to see. As we see Dean Riley in the picture-in-picture, he's going through La Source at the moment, and Rich Smith is still in pit lane. I wonder if we'll see Rich Smith in his pit box. Dean Riley comes down the hill towards 𝗪𝗔𝗟𝗘𝗏𝗏. You could just see him.
Oh, there he is.
Pit lane now. No, sorry.
Wow.
He's in his pit box, and that tells you the gap. Is it a gap of 20 seconds, though, Aaron? That's the main thing.
I mean, that is a huge gap. I mean, just by the fact that he was still stationary, you know, Rich Smith was still stationary in his pit box. He's got to get up to speed out there, and then he's gonna have cortège. He's just left now. Like, he's going through the comedy. That is a huge. Yeah, that's about 20 seconds. Yeah, that's about 20 seconds.
If that is, I mean, obviously we'll see the timing tower shake out in a minute. If that is, because the good thing is they're right next to each other on the track as well, so the timing tower makes it even easier for us buffoons to read in terms of the difference between the two of them. We don't have to try and add anything together. It means if it is 20 seconds, it's 23 seconds. That is potentially a 3-second gap between Robbie Stapleford and Dean Riley when he comes out of the pit stop, assuming that Robbie Stapleford is in the pit stop phase at exactly the same time.
Provided Robbie Stapleford makes a good pit stop,
which we know he's going to be capable of doing. He's been doing everything this entire season on the money. Do you not think?
I mean, yeah, he's been amazing all season. I can't, but it only takes. It just takes a little bit of like lifting off in the trying to match up get in your pit box, trying not to get dragged back to your pit box as well. That can lose you 3 seconds, and it's so easily done, like so easily done. But he's been amazing, and I can't fault him. But like, it can happen to the best of people. I've seen it happen to people like James Baldwin, Charlie Crossland. It happens to the best of drivers. Like it could come down to it. And I don't think it would make any impact on Robbie Stapleford winning the championship. He's been outstanding so far. He's won every race that he's been in. But it would be a great ending to this championship by having a different winner, I have to say.
Absolutely. Whilst it would be an absolute feat in itself to see Robbie take the win of every single race in this championship, it just shows you the pace that 𝗪𝗔𝗟𝗘𝗏𝗏. In fact, he didn't win at Bathurst, of course. I'm just hearing that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe he is, but yes, that is absolutely right. And just seeing that from Dave Hedges in the YouTube chat that he said it's a great season so far, which he's absolutely right about. And Yannick Muller and himself are going to be in the Reiter. Is it the Reiter? I don't know how to say you pronounce it. The Reiter or whatever it is. That weird.
Get it.
Really, really cheap looking. It looks like a Lamborghini or something.
Excuse me. Cheap looking. That thing's an absolute beast.
I mean, it doesn't.
I won't have it. I won't have that. No.
I want to see people. I want to see a couple of people taking the custom-made Jag as well. That would be quite fun to see.
What's this for? What
this is next season apparently. They're going to go into the Reiter or the Rita or whatever it's called. You're in the box with me, mate. You're not leading this. You can't get back on track. They won't allow you back. This is it. It's like gold dust getting commentators back in to join me in it.
Some predictions. I think I should get back on the track.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that. As long as you race better than you predict, then I'm sure you'll be absolutely right.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. That was amazing. That was great.
It's all good fun. All good fun. Anyway, yeah, as we come towards the final 25 minutes of this race and of this season, Robbie Stapleford still leading the way after 40 laps ran of this Spa-Francorchamps circuit from Regan Mitchell, who is around 20 seconds behind the Zansho Simsport 81 car at the moment. Chris Pinchbeck 5 seconds back. That gap has started to wane since the pit stop phase. Chris Pinchbeck was very close behind Regan as they came out for their first pit stop, but has started to drift back since. Dean Riley, the first man on track who has done all of his mandatory pit stops. So, yeah, it's going to be very close indeed. So do not go anywhere. Keep your eyes peeled, because this last 25 minutes is going to be a fantastic thing to see. And if Dean Riley does come out to win it, Aaron, it's safe to say it is an absolutely fantastic recovery, and I'm very intrigued to get his thoughts if he does win, and we have a chat with him after the race.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just looking at pitwall.live right now, and Mitchell and Pinchbeck are really struggling in these conditions. Right, you can see they're over a second, nearly 2 seconds from Chris Pinchbeck on Robbie Stapleford. 2 seconds. You know, I don't know if that's every lap, but that, you know, he's not comfortable in these conditions. You could just see the rear end of that Aston Martin sliding all over the place. I honestly don't think that they've got these tyre PSIs right for these conditions. It has been horrible out for them out here today, like 10 degrees plus difference between the start and the finish of this race. I mean, if you didn't predict that, you couldn't plan for it. And I think it's playing a big part here in their results, really, in this race, in the lap times.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, for those people who aren't as au fait, should we say, with the way that ACC works in terms of tyre pressures and temperatures, just how much of a difference, Aaron, does it make if those tyres are, let's say, half a psi, half a pressure, full psi pressure out of that operating window? How much of a difference does that make to the way that you're driving the car?
It makes multiple differences. I would say on a base level, David, that it obviously affects the grip that you have. You know, the temperature of the track affects the grip that you have, but if you don't get optimum pressures, you're losing grip there straight away, especially lateral grip, which is what you do certainly need at Spa more than anything. And then, you know, and also it would make your setup feel different. So you could get the perfect setup for 20 degrees temperature, but it won't feel amazing at 15 degrees. You know, the car might feel sketchy. You might need more downforce at lower temperatures, but you can't change any of this. This is you know, non-refundable. You finish the race with what you start with, but you can't change it in between on the setup. So, you know, the cars may have felt perfect at the beginning when we saw those great lap times, but right now these drivers, it's more about, you know, driver effort and driver skill to get these cars around the track.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see a lot of driver skill on show and a lot of driver effort for sure in this AM class category at the moment. Martin-Pilkington still leading the race in that AM class in 9th position on track at the moment, but Rob Jackson, who has been trying very, very hard indeed, bless him, for the entirety of what I can recall for this race, to try and get past this Ferrari that we're riding on board with at the moment, along the back end of that Ferrari, just in front of that rear spoiler. Rob Jackson's so wide as they go onto the Kilburn straight, trying to use every single possible. Oh, he's got a drive through. Oh, it's been ruined. He's had the chance of a class win taken away from him by a pesky drive through, and we know how much time he's going to lose. A whole trip through that dastardly pit lane here at Spa. That is going to shift him right out, but rest assured, the fight for the AM class win, Aaron, is not over, because just look behind this Aston Martin. There's another one just on the horizon with a nice bit of day glow green on the back. I do like a bit of day glow green on a car in ACC, and that is Ash Coupland, who's not too far behind at all in the FF Motorsports car. So, although Rob Jackson's out of the chance of getting this class win, Ash is going to have his chance to put a bit of pressure on himself. Yeah,
Rob Jackson was really beating himself for that. That's such a... I mean, it's impressive that we've only seen one drive-through here at Spa. Very easy to do, I have to state that, especially through that 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏 section. But for 20 minutes to go in a 2-hour race, you could have let off. You know, like you didn't need to do that. And I kind of feel like he's going to be kicking himself there, especially with the great battle that we've seen between these two drivers and the potential win for the AM class. But like you say, Ash Coupland will be looking at this with a sigh of relief, because he knows he's net gained one position already, and he could challenge 𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the last 20 minutes of this race.
Absolutely, fastest man on track at the moment, just done a 2:17.0, would you believe, is Rich Smith. He set the last two fastest laps. He went 2:17.4 a couple of laps ago and did a 2:17.0 on the latest lap, and that is some going. Of course, we would imagine he's put on some fresh rubber if that's the case, because that is some obscene lap times from that man. As you see, Rob Jackson does elect to serve his drive-through penalty at the first time of asking. He's going to have to trundle down that pit lane at the slowest speed possible. Of course, the brain will think it's a hell of a lot slower than it actually is, and in comparison to an all-road car, it's incredibly fast when you consider that. As Regan Mitchell does the same thing just at the first apex rather than the second one. He hasn't got a drive-through by the looks of it, would have come up by now, and he is currently sitting in second place. He's still got a pit stop to do. That is his teammate, I believe, in front of him, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's not. That is it's Martin-Pilkington, sorry, in the Positive Perception Bentley ahead of him on track. As you see, Ash Cooper's got one as well. Oh, goodness me.
I think it's only 𝗏𝗏𝗏 has one now.
Yeah, I want to see 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 get a drive-through penalty only because I want to see this battle carry on for the next 20 minutes. So I'm begging. I mean, I know he won't, because if he's got a sensible head on his shoulders, he's not going to go and push his luck at all. He knows now that class win is within his. He's always got one hand on the class trophy, isn't he, with that for tonight's race? But there's every chance, isn't there? And yeah, I for one hope he gets one, so we can get a rinse repeat of it for the third time in this race. It'd be great. I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's just coming back to these track conditions, isn't it? Really, they're losing grip. And they're trying to maintain the same speeds that they have done since the start when it was 29 degrees. It just ain't going to work, sunshine. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to take that much speed through that corner and so many other corners. So, it's about being able to transition as the track progresses. And I think Martin-Pilkington has done a great job of that. He's been able to just keep a level head for a majority of this race. Hasn't really made any mistakes. Yeah, he's slightly off the top pace, but he's fastest in his class, and that's all that really matters. And he's been able to adjust when he needs to.
Absolutely, and let's bear in mind, he's only 13 seconds off the back of Martin-Pilkington at the back end of the pro class, and he's actually beating 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, of course, who's in the pro class as well. So fantastic work from these guys. If it wasn't for a drive-through penalty, you would have expected that 3 of these 4 drivers would have been potentially ahead of one of the pros at any point. And like I say, I'm still hoping, and if any of the admin are listening and they can get onto the server and they can retrospectively apply a penalty, give Martin-Pilkington a drive-through and tell him it came from me for the sake of the broadcast, because we want to see a battle for this race once more, because it's such a shame that it's been done over by a couple of drive-through penalties. But no matter, I'm sure that Ash Cooper and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 will come back out on track very close to each other and will continue on as if nothing ever happened. Man on your camera at this moment in time is Dean Riley, the number 21 Simsport Racing Noir car. He is currently 85.4 seconds back from Robbie Stapleford. That is 1 minute and 25 seconds, if you want to put it that way. That is more than enough time for him to get out.
No way.
And for Robbie Stapleford to be at least 10-15 seconds behind him. If I'm Robbie Stapleford in this position, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well, Aaron, I would be pitting very early, because I would want to get the fresh boots on and try and catch him up, because I don't think he's got enough time. And if he leaves it really late, to be fair, he might not be aware that this is the gap between him. I'd like to think he would be, but that's not necessarily always the case. And I feel like he needs to pit now, because if he doesn't pit now, he's then got less and less time to try and claw back against an ever-improved Dean Riley. What do you think?
Well, I'm inclined to agree with you, because I think you've been spot on so far, and I think I'd be an idiot if I didn't. But from Stapleford's point of view, I really do believe that he won't be taking tyres. I think he'll reset the PSIs. Like, if he's going to lose that much time, it's 30 seconds for a fresh set. Plus, is it 30 seconds? I could be wrong with that. But then, I think it's 30 seconds for a fresh set of tyres. That's time he won't want to waste. That's time he can't afford to waste on a fresh set of tyres. And I think it all depends on how well he's looked after his tyres now. But you can reset the PSIs on the tyres that you already have on. And I think he'll go for what we would call a splash and dash, even though the pit lane is so long. I kind of feel like I think that's Stapleford's game plan. Because we've seen him, he was over the hour mark, really, when he went to take his first pit. And his lap times really weren't suffering that much. So he is looking after the tyres on his car really, really well. And it's down to being under no pressure. He's under some pressure now, but it's not visible to him. It may be on the timing tower, but it's not behind him, it's not in front of him. He's just being able to drive coolly.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the timings on the pit stops that both Ash Coupland and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 made, of course, because they went for a drive-through, as we know. The fastest of the two was Ash Coupland, and he did a 1:20.5 in the pit lane. Of course, that's with no stop whatsoever. So if Robbie Stapleford takes tyres, it's race gone. He will not win this race. If he just puts in, like you say, if he goes with about 10 minutes to go, or even less than that, between 10 and 5 minutes to go, he puts a tiny amount of fuel in for at least like a 2-second pit stop, there's every chance that he could still be very, very close behind, but he cannot take tyres. So it's just about, like you say, how well has he managed his tyres through this stint, because we know he's been going quickly, but how much grip has he got left in that McLaren 720S to really put a move upon 𝗬𝗓𝗏 at the end? 15 minutes left. I know I was confident before. My confidence is wavering ever so slightly because it's going to be very, very close between the two of them when they come out, when Robbie comes out of his final pit stop.
This is why the Aston is such a popular choice. If you look at the timing tower, it's mainly monopolised and dominated by Aston Martins. It's because, you know, during endurance races, you got the heat of the midday, and then you've got the coolness of the night. But the Aston Martin can deal with it all, and you've really just got to set up those tyre pressures right as you take your pits to manage it. But that's really it. The Aston Martin, it feels okay in all weathers, in all terrains. So I kind of feel like this is an Aston Martin track, and this would be a great job if 𝗬𝗓𝗏 can make this stick. That is fantastic.
Absolutely, it's one of the most uneventful recovery drives I think I've ever seen, because normally you would attribute a recovery drive to loads of moves and all of that sort of stuff, but he's just, like I say, he's not won it yet, and he still might not, in fairness to it, but I think he'll probably be on the podium at a minimum. But it's been, like I say, it's been the least uneventful recovery drive because he's done his strategy extremely well. Got caught up in the incident at the start. We appreciate that. Like I say, that thing happened. There's not much he can do about it. He's fixed the damage, I believe, and he's then he's effectively hot lapped for the next hour and a half, and that's how he's got himself into this position. He's still gaining time on 𝗏𝗔𝗏𝗏 ahead of him, and he's within 85 seconds, so he's just over, 85 seconds back from Robbie Stapleford, who's running quicker on a lap-by-lap basis right now as 𝗏𝗔𝗏𝗏 comes into the pit lane for his final pit stop. So it leaves just that of Regan Mitchell and Robbie Stapleford. But we'll see what 𝗏𝗔𝗏𝗏 is going to do, because you'd expect, Aaron, he will be doing a slash and dash as well. There's 13 minutes left. He's not going to have a huge amount of fuel to put in, so we'll have to keep an eye on the pit stop time for himself and see if we can get a bit of an idea as to how that will affect Robbie in the next 5-10 minutes time as well.
Yeah, especially when he lost a few positions, didn't he? And he's really battling with that 𝗪𝗔𝗏𝗏𝗏. I mean, like, I think Adam took the, he kind of went in at the hour 10 mark, and then he went in at like the 40-minute mark. So he's kind of spread it out evenly, so he has that tyre grip throughout the race. But he could become undone here if 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 does a splash and dash. I think he could actually come out in front of Adam again, and there'll be a great battle for these two, as well as what we hope a battle between Stapleford and 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗏.
Absolutely, yeah. So Robbie Stapleford coming through 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. He's got 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that is in front of him on track. That is 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in your picture. Say that. I'm never gonna say that one again. As he comes in, he's just sat in his pit box. And when 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏 comes past him,
here we go. He's out. Come on.
Out already. So we're just waiting for the timer on the pit stop to finish. 1 minute and 20.
He's out.
3 seconds. Well, it's still counting up, but effectively it's a minute and 25, minute and 30 seconds he's going to be. And, as importantly to note, he's going to be in front of 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, because you can see he's on the Kemmel Straight. 𝗪𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 just coming through 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 up towards Ranionsey. And he's got a couple of cars in between him as well. I think that's Rob Jackson, and funnily enough, it's Ash Coupland behind him as well. Something I've gotten fairly used to saying throughout this evening. And yeah, you can imagine Aaron, Regan Mitchell could be doing the same. So these top three all going to be doing the same thing. 1 minute 30 is the pit stop time to beat. That's what 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 did. That would mean that at this moment in time, because it's actually gaining time, is Robbie Stapleford on 𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, there'd be a 4-second gap if he did a 1 minute 30 pit stop. I can't wait to see how this one ends up.
I can't wait. I just let you know though. Looking at the times that is happening on the pitwall.live, it looks like Rich Smith is rapid right now. He's got the time, like we said, we knew he would because of it. You know, he took that pit stop. He's got that fresh set. He's doing 17.6s right now, where Stapleford's doing 18.5s. Riley's doing 18.8s. So you know, he's been able to maintain those 17s, but with what, 5 laps to go, is that going to be enough? I really don't know. He's gone for that plane route, and I'm going to have to revisit my pit stop strategy after watching this race. Because I've definitely learned a thing or two, that's for sure. It's not always you know, hedging your bets by putting on, you know, fresh sets of tyres every time you go into the pit. Sometimes you've really just got to, you know, put more emphasis on your driving ability and maybe run worn tyres a little bit more, because it's definitely benefiting some of these drivers out here today at Spa.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see at the moment Chris Pinchbeck, got Rob Jackson and Ash Coupland close for company behind, but they're a lap down, so they're not going to cause him any issues you would like to think. I'm at least hoping that Rob Jackson's not going to try and make a move and impact on Pinchy's race. He doesn't at this moment in time, but he's got to be careful because, like I say, he's got Ash Coupland very, very close for company once more behind him, fighting for the AM class podium from second and third place on that one at the moment. But Robbie Stapleford still in the lead, just over 10 minutes to go. The sun has set here at the Circuit Spa Farm Shop. Everyone has got their lights on. Everyone's going to need to keep them on because they need to see where they're going as they go in towards the dark. And it's really setting up, Aaron, for a proper grandstand finish, isn't it? Because at this moment in time, there is going to be a couple of seconds potentially pit stop time dependent that these guys are going to have between them, between Dean Riley and Robbie Stapleford at the end of this race. And it's going to be very, very close indeed.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic here. It's blue flags waving for Adam Misalovic as Robbie Stapleford's looking to make it pass. I think it's one of the best places to let a car pass. It's just a slightly lift. I think that's what he's doing. Slightly lift, give him the toe. He'll drag past, and then he'll resume. It's always a nightmare when you get blue flags on corners because you really want to focus on your driving line rather than trying to let someone pass. But on the Camel Straight, it's probably the most ideal place to let people pass. I have to say though, David, I remember commentating on the final race of the last season. It was at Donington, and it was pitch black, and it was an absolute cracking race that was. So and this is proven to be just as good, really. I think that nighttime racing or sunset driving is spectacular to watch, but it's just I don't know. It's so good. It just invites action. I think there's so much more to think about in terms of like your pit strategy and your setup as a driver.
Absolutely, like you say, it's causing these, I wouldn't say issues, but difficulties for the guys to actually manage their strategy effectively. Because, like you say, we've had a change of 15 degrees on track temperature from the start to the end of this race. So it's really key. It's really key for these guys to manage things correctly. Of course, we started at 4 p.m. local time. It's now just hitting past 10 p.m. So the sun is officially set. So we've still, like I say, track temperature, dropping down, really kind of helping the Aston Martin. Interestingly, that Rob Jackson, who's a lap down, is actually flashing Chris Pinchbeck. That's not going to go down well in the cockpit of the Simsport Racing car ahead of him, the number 43 machine. I wonder if Rob's actually going to go for a move down the inside, because it does look like, Aaron, it doesn't look like Chris has got the pace that we would have expected just coming out of the pits. We know he's obviously on the same tyres. He didn't go for that splash and dash. He didn't go for a tyre change in the last pit stop, but he doesn't seem to have the pace that we've seen him have throughout the race so far up until this point, has he?
Well, that last lap was a 2:20.8. So, when we saw these three, 𝗔𝗟𝗘, Coupland and Jackson all fighting together, they were running those times fighting. Like, they were battling and still running those times. So Pinchbeck hugely off the pace right now, and that's why we're seeing this flashing, because Rob Jackson doesn't want to lose this position. He's already been through a drive-through, and he knows that Coupland's going to take any advantage he gets. So, Pinchbeck is just a rolling Aston roadblock right now.
Absolutely. He's stuck in the middle of a bit of a sandwich. He's looking like he's getting a bit of a toe on Pinchbeck as they go down the Kemmel Straight into Les Combes. Again, he's got the opportunity. He's well within his rights to overtake Pinchbeck, but he's got to start to build a gap as soon as he does that. And like you say, he's got the Aston Martin of Ash Coupland pretty much on the rear wing of the Badger Sport 679 car. With 7 minutes to go, the battle for 11th isn't finished, and the battle for the lead and the outright win of this race is definitely not out of the realms of change as of yet as well. 86 seconds, so a minute and 26 seconds is the gap between Robbie Stapleford and Dean Riley at the moment. As I mentioned earlier on, when Chris Pinchbeck went in for his pit stop and did a splash and dash then and just put in fuel, it was a minute and 30 seconds he took to get in and out of the pit lane. So that would give Dean Riley a 4-second gap to win this race. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. I feel like Robbie Stapleford has potentially missed a trick here. Unless he can get out in and out of that pit stop phase, Aaron, in blistering time and can get out within a minute and 26 seconds, I can't see him winning this race unless he's within a second or two and can get the move done the last few laps.
I want to agree with you, David. I do, but I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like he's gonna. I feel like Robbie Stapleford. He's like you said. He defended very, 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 very objectively that he's not made a mistake every time he's made a pit in this championship, you know, maybe a second, but you know that's the margin that he's been within. I can't. He has to really make a mistake. I feel like he has to make a mistake for 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗧 to get past him. That's why I feel it's going to be so close. I can't predict it. It's so close. I don't want to predict it because I've been wrong as well. So I'm just going to start with the predictions there.
That's absolutely fair enough. I've just noticed Robbie Stapleton's behind this trio of cars. You can just see him going through the source there. So that's another lap he's not pitted. So we've got 5 minutes 25 remaining. That he's got effectively he has to pit either this lap or the next lap, and potentially, in fact, no, I think he would make. I think there's 3 more laps left regardless of when he pits because. Oh, sorry, it's 2 laps if he pits next lap, so on and so forth. I'm not going to try and explain that because I'm going to get my words twisted up.
Just end it.
You know what I mean? Like, depending on when he pits, will depend on whether there's a lap or there's an extra lap or not. Because if he pits on the final lap with like a minute left, with like 30 seconds left, we're going to have that extra lap. If he pits now, I wonder if that's his plan. Is he trying to lose a lap of the race to see if he can carry on and get the win? I don't know. See, we can't get into the head of these guys, and these are the kind of questions that I'll have to save and ask these guys at the end of it, as it's now pretty much completely pitch black here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. The lights are ablaze, and Robbie Stapleton is still in the lead of this race. 𝗬𝗏𝗘𝗧𝗧's still yet to pit as well, so we need to, of course, we can't forget him. We need to see where he's going to shake out in this race from second position in the number 69 Lamborghini. It's still all to play for. There's still quite a few positions here that are going to shake out over the next 4 minutes of this race.
Yeah, I kind of feel that Adam Masalovic in 𝗏𝗏 Ferrari, 6th place, he made his way up to 3rd, I believe it was, or 4th. I think it was 4th or 3rd. You know, he's missed a trick here, and you know his efforts have definitely not been rewarded because he was on a flyer. You know, he made an outstanding overtake, and he's done it all on the tarmac, where people that have been planning this from. It seems like this is definitely the plans have been in the works here for this kind of scenario where they're making these late pit stops with just using one set of tyres to change in the race. I kind of feel like he's missed a trick there, and you know it's made it complicated, and probably maybe frustrated by it as well that he didn't come to the same conclusion. Because his driving ability so far this race has been impeccable, and he deserves better than 6th place.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course we'll see whether he does come out in 6th place, or in fact no, he will stay in 6th place because unless 𝗬𝗏𝗘𝗧𝗧 for some reason puts tyres on, doesn't mean to, he is going to come out in front of 𝗧𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗏 because he had a few seconds over in the anyway. Interestingly to note, just to keep everyone updated, if you're not looking at Pitbull Live, and if you aren't, then you should be, because it will give you all of the timings that Aaron and I have been able to feed out to you throughout this evening. You can see it now as well, because Steve Proudly, our broadcast director, as always, picked up on my audio cue and suggested I bring it up on the screen. 87 seconds, a minute and 27 seconds is now the gap between Stapleton and Riley. That is edging ever closer, Aaron, to the chance of Robbie Stapleton coming out of the pit stop phase ahead of 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗧. You can't call this. It was a surefire thing, as 𝗏𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗏 eventually does now get out of the way for these two guys to carry racing, which was, I think it was sensible in the end.
Well, I don't know about that, because Adam's just behind him. I don't think that was is it Adam's just behind him? I don't think that was a sensible call. No, 7 seconds.
That is a very...
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, Masalovic isn't too far down the road, as 𝗬𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗏 pits now. 2 minutes and 10 seconds left on the track. Robbie Stapleton flashing the back markers as much as he possibly can to get out of the way, but of course he's got the problem here where 𝗏𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗏 should get out of his way easily enough. The problem he's got is he's got two drivers in the form of Coupland and Jackson who are fighting for positions on track. They're not going to get out of his way that quickly because they're fighting against each other as well. So it's a very difficult thing to do. Robbie Stapleton has to pit on this lap. He has to come in. He can't, because he won't make it round another lap. So he has to pit unless he does the unthinkable and pits on the final lap as the white flag has gone. But I don't know if that would work, and I would assume the system would give him some sort of penalty. So I think he has to pit this lap. But I don't know. I've never been in that position in the race before, so I'm really intrigued to see what he does. He comes through Blanchimont for the second to last time. Sorry, Aaron, go on.
No, I think it would be sensible to pit anyway, because I don't think the two back markers up front are going to give him the time of day, because Jackson and Coupland are going really at it. They're not going to be looking in their rear view for blue flags. Yeah, I think it's a sensible decision. He goes.
Yeah, there you go. He goes into the pit lane. It's 87.3 seconds is the gap between Robbie Stapleford and Dean Riley. You can see on the right of your picture is Robbie Stapleford. He currently leads the race and the championship, and will continue to lead the championship and take the championship title. Even if he finishes in second tonight, he would need to retire at this point, which seems unthinkable, in order to not win the championship. It's been a fantastic season from the 𝗓𝗔𝗟𝗘𝗡𝗏 Simsport driver. However, the gap is very, very, very close indeed. He rounds the pit lane of 𝗏𝗏𝗧. He's going at 60 kilometres an hour. It feels like an eternity as he goes down that pit straight, down the hill towards Overbridge. He can't go any quicker than that. It is horrible for him. And Dean Riley is coming through Fania at the moment, I believe. He's coming in towards campus and into Stavelot for the second to last time. Sorry, in fact, it's the last time. Sorry, it's second to last time, because the timer is about to hit 0 down the back straight. Robbie Stapleford has not even hit his pit box yet as the time hits 0. It is pitch black here at Spa. I did not expect to see this. Robbie Stapleford is parking up his car. He needs to be perfect on his marks. It looks okay. He's in. He's not moving anywhere. He's down. He's going. As Dean Riley goes through the bus stop chicane. I don't know how this has happened, but Dean Riley is absolutely miles behind Aaron. Robbie Stapleford has planned this to perfection. I've got it completely wrong. I don't know how it's happened.
My reputation is saved.
We thought it would be close. Robbie Stapleford has come out with an absolute monstrous gap between him. He did that pit stop in a minute. On the nose, a minute.
A minute?
That is 20 seconds quicker than those guys went through and did drive-throughs. That is absolutely obscene.
How did you do that? How is that possible?
I have absolutely no idea how he's managed it, but somehow, to really, in fairness to him, that is exactly how that's gone in the M4. That's exactly how the season's panned out. He has judged that to perfection. I have to ask him how he did a 1 minute pit stop then compared to everyone else, because that is absolutely insane. But Robbie Stapleford is coming around 𝗚𝗏 for the final time after 6 races of fantastic action here in the Simsport Racing GT3 Championship. He's literally gone in, he's stopped, he's maybe put in a litre of fuel, and he's going to come out and win this race as well. And it's been a fantastic space. He's been imperious the entire way through. It looked like a dead cert that Dean Riley was going to come through and take the win, but instead, Aaron, he's come out 20 seconds behind him. What a fantastic
what I said all along, isn't it?
Yeah, to be fair, your prediction came through, and now I'm done with egg on my face, because he's actually come out and completely trounced the field instead. Like I say, I'm going to have to speak to him in a minute, because that is absolutely ludicrous. And as a result, although he doesn't actually reach the finish line because the server's actually finished, Robbie Stapleford takes the win here in the final race of the season at Spa-Francorchamps. Like I say, I don't know how that's happened, Darren. I'm absolutely baffled. But what a fantastic season for Robbie Stapleford. Apart from those couple of races, Bathurst and Catalonia at the start of the season, he's been absolutely untouchable, hasn't he? He's been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's been a fantastic result, and that's why he's part of Team 𝗓𝗏𝗡. You know, they have that McLaren set up to a T. He's young. He's got a bright future ahead of him in sim racing esports for sure. And you know, winning championships like this isn't easy. You know, when we look at the lap times with his competitors, Dean Riley and Rich Smith, you know, that they're on par. You know, and arguably they're in the easier car to drive. So, you know, huge kudos to Stapleford throughout this championship, and I hope to see him back for some more next time.
Absolutely unbelievable stuff from that man. Little fun fact for you, Aaron, I actually have a set of his pedals. He sold me a set of his sim racing pedals. So if I'm not as quick as him in the next year, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got no chance. But I mean, yeah, what a fantastic display from him. He's imperious the entire way through that race. He had a little bit of a worry, didn't we, that in the first couple of laps when he was weaving down the Kemmel straight to break the toe. But other than that, that was, yeah, most untouchable that the entire race. You see the highlights going through. Very clean race start in the end, which is fantastic to see. We should be able to speak to the top 3 in a moment. Just to run you back through the order at the end of this race, it was, of course, Robbie Stapleford who took the victory this evening, and with that, barring any miraculous protest decisions, the championship alongside that as well. Dean Riley coming through in second place. Fantastic recovery drive from him after coming together with Jonathan Seville in the first couple of laps. Rich Smith rounds out your podium positions, and then Regan Mitchell with that splash and dash comes through in a very impressive 4th place after starting 7th or 8th on the grid. Chris Pinchbeck comes through in 5th place, and Adam 𝗟𝗟𝗡𝗏 behind him by only 2 seconds in the end in 6th position, with Simon Wilkes, Mark Neutling sitting in 7th and 8th, and then Martin-Pilkington and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 rounding out the top 10, the former of which getting the AM class victory with that as well. Fantastic drive from him, held off the likes of Rob Jackson and Ash Coupland, who finished 11th and 12th. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 rounding out the last of the running cars who were able to finish. Unfortunately, of course, we lost Jonathan Seville after that incident in the first couple of laps, but we come to the end of the season now, and of course it's a shame that it has to end, but all those good things do have to come to an end. How would you surmise the season? I mean, like I say, it's been a runaway victory for Robbie Stapleton in the end, but some of the battling and the racing we've seen across the last 6 rounds has been nothing short of sensational, hasn't it?
Well, it's like every other season here at Simsport. It never just tips off. You know what I mean? The action's always there every round. You always get a great start to it. You always get like a great mid-season, and then the finale is spectacular. That whole end to that Spa race just then is still a mystery to me. We didn't even get to see the finish of it. You know, how on earth did he did that pit stop? You know, and it's always nice to finish at night as well. I feel like closing the doors on the championship, I feel like there's some poetry there. It's very poetic to finish the season on a night race. I feel that's very poetic, and it's very nice to see as well.
Absolutely, yeah, very symbolic, isn't it? It's very nice indeed. As we're just seeing there in the highlights, that fantastic move from Adam 𝗟𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏 on Chris Pinchbeck. Like you say, he just got he got that brilliant run round the outside of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the first instance, and just as you pointed out earlier on in the race, a fantastic line through 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, didn't he? Got a little bit squirmy through there, but just held on to it so well, and brilliant. It's got to be the move of the race, surely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that might be in the top 10 moves of the championship. Really, definitely in the top 5. That it takes some courage to do that, especially in a mid-engine car and such a snappy car like the Ferrari. He drove the wheels off that thing, so huge congratulations to him. It's just unfortunate he finished in 6th place.
Yeah, absolutely. The result in the end doesn't pay dividends to the performance that he put in that car. That is absolutely certain. We will hopefully get a couple of the guys in a minute. We're trying to drag them into the interview booth as we speak. We'll hopefully hear from the top 3 from this evening. Of course, with that, we'll hear from the champion-elect Robbie Stapleton as well. And as I mentioned, that will now be the start of the summer break for Simsport Racing's championship races. Of course, there'll be plenty of races going on, otherwise one-offs and things like that as we go through on the standard Wednesday and Sunday slots. So if you are looking to get onto the grid, you need to head into the description of the video and go in to check out the Discord link and get yourself involved on all sorts of different platforms. I can now see we are starting to get a few of the guys in, and we'll start with... Well, we believe it to be the champion-elect. I can't see it being anywhere otherwise. And amazingly, despite mine and Aaron's trials and tribulations trying to figure out who was going to win that race winner and championship winner, Zancho Simsport's Robbie Stapleton. Robbie, congratulations first and foremost. I'll get your thoughts on winning the championship in a second. But I have to ask you before anything else, how did you get that McLaren in and out of that pit stop at Spa in a minute flat?
I don't even know. I just drove in. Only pitted for 1 litre of fuel, came out, and I was 20 seconds in front. I was like, what? I thought it was going to be like literally fighting as soon as I get out of the pit lane, but luckily I had a 20 second gap, so I was quite surprised.
I do kind of feel like you took away a battle at the end for us, but I'm sure you're quite happy that was the case. Aaron and I were talking throughout the race, and we were talking about the fact that the temperatures are obviously they changed massively throughout the race, and we were talking about how the tyre pressures impacted. How much more difficult did it make the race for you this evening, knowing that the temperature dropped so quickly throughout that race? Because we went from, I think it was 29 degrees track temperature to 13 at the end. How were you managing to handle the car in the middle of the stints there tonight?
The car felt all right. After the first stint, I upped the pressures quite a lot because I knew that could see that the temperature was going down, so I upped them more after the first stint, so they would help a bit at the end of the second, and it seemed to work. So.
And like you say, like I say, you kind of took us away from a battle at the end, but I'm not even going to try and figure out and fathom how you managed to do a 1 minute pit stop, especially when people took drive-throughs and took longer in the pit lane than you did. That's by the by. How worried were you knowing that you had that pit stop still to do? And Dean was relentless. The drive from him, we'll come to it in a minute, was fantastic. But were you worried at that point, coming towards the back end of the race, that you were going to potentially lose the race win at that point, or were you still? Do you still have that confidence in the back of your mind, knowing that you could get the pit stop done and still come out in front?
I weren't worried, but I thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was. And the only trouble with Spa, if you double stint tyres, you come straight out the pit lane with stone cold tyres. So I think if it was a lot closer, I probably would have lost it, but who knows?
And of course, like I say, you've won pretty much every race there was to win this season, barring any miraculous changes, which I can't foresee happening. That is you winning season 5 of the GT3 Championship. How does it feel to win the championship at this point? Surely you're ecstatic. What are your thoughts?
It feels amazing. It's been a great season, racing Dean and Rich and everybody else out there, and just want to thank Zancho and Simply Race for all the help they've given me.
Fantastic. And thoughts and aspirations ahead of next year? Next season rather. You gonna come back and blitz the field again, or are you expecting to have a bit more of a sterner competition from some of the other guys who are I'm sure going to be putting in a hell of a lot of practice over the summer break?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully Dean can up his pace and give me a better fight.
Fighting talk. It's a good thing it's the end of the season, because you give him a chance to think about that and use that as inspiration. I'm sure I'll have it penciled on his wall for the next 6 weeks until we come back in for the next season. Speaking of which, we'll run to our second place man of the evening, second place in the championship as well. Of course, Dean, there was an outside chance of you taking the championship. I think it pretty much bore down to yourself winning and Robbie pretty much tanking out of the race at any point. But you still made, well, up until, like I say, this ghost pit stop that I'm going to call it for the rest of the evening, you still came out, and I had you penned in for winning that race since you did your final pit stop. That has got to be one of the best recovery drives. Was it like from your perspective? Because it seemed like there wasn't a huge amount going on for you, apart from when you came up behind the likes of Martin-Pilkington and co towards the back end of the stint there.
Yeah, I had to be forced into that pit stop. Jonathan tapped my rear end and I hit the barrier, got 22 seconds of damage, so I had no front end aero, so I had to come in the pits to repair the damage, and I took 1 litre of fuel and then jumped back out again. Looking at where Robbie come out at the end, I think would have been pretty much a bang on neck and neck with each other with the damage repair, which is unfortunate, but I've raced with Jonathan before. He's a good guy, so it's just one of them things really. I just had a race on my own and just kept out of trouble and pushed as hard as I could to try and close the gap down, and luckily enough I managed to come out in second, which, to be fair, I didn't think it was going to be that high with the damage. So again, Robbie dominated. I'll get him next season, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Like you say, you mentioned, and we picked up on the fact that you pretty much had, especially for the first stint, I think you had about a 50-second window ahead of you. How easy or how difficult is it to keep your concentration in periods like that, where you're effectively hot lapping, aren't you? How easy is it, or how difficult is it to keep your concentration at that point and know that there's still potential, as you've seen tonight, to get such a good result?
Yeah, it was fairly easy. There was nothing round, so it was a matter of keep the time as close as possible and as fast as possible without making any mistakes. And then obviously within the pack, if you're in the pack, you're going to be forced into trying to overtake and potentially being caused to go offline, and that's going to slow you down. So for me to be in clean air, it was actually better for me. Without the damage, again, I'd have been a bit closer, but the only trouble with pitting earlier is that on my second pit stop I come back out in traffic and had to try and work my way through the traffic. That was the hardest bit of the race. But yeah, I was going to match Robbie pit stop for pit stop if we were next to each other, but I didn't have that opportunity to do that, so yeah, I had to do what I did.
Yeah, it's unfortunate in the end, but like you say, I still think, the drive from yourself was absolutely fantastic and has been all season, and I, for one, am looking forward to seeing. Like I say, I'm sure you're going to write the fighting talk from Robbie that you mentioned a minute ago up on your wall for the break, and come back ready and raring to go. What are your thoughts ahead of the next season? Do you think you'll be able to close that gap and start to fighting for some more wins next time around?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
That's
No,
exactly what we like to do.
Robbie's a quick guy. I mean, to be competing with him, I'm happy with that. I know I can compete with him. He has probably got that slight edge on me, but give or take any track and car combination, I think we're very close. Today would have been a better race if it didn't have the damage, but yeah. Before this race, I was confident that I could win it, but yeah, I didn't, and I'll have to come back next time and do it again.
Absolutely, that's what we like to hear. Well, congratulations again, Dean. Like I say, unfortunate start to the race, but a fantastic recovery drive, and it's just a shame that really quick pit stop seemed to put pay to any chance you've taken the win. But again, fantastic job, and congratulations on second place in the championship as well.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And then we'll go to our third place man, who'd probably had just as quiet a race as Dean for parts of that. Rich, congratulations on taking that third spot at the end. One thing I did notice was you seemed to keep Robbie very honest after, of course, Dean and Jonathan had that little coming together. Was that something that you were expecting would be the case as you were going through that, or were you just literally just running your own race at that point and really just considering just hitting the marks on the pit stops and seeing what happened at the end there?
Sorry, David. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine now, yeah.
Wow, sorry. I've just spent the whole of the interview trying to sort out my microphone, so I was just a bit shocked then that you could hear me. Sorry about that. No, sorry. If you repeat the question, I'll stop. I'll actually concentrate on what I'm doing and listen to what you're saying. Sorry, mate.
No, that is not a problem at all. I was just saying, it seemed like it was a very, very quiet race for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I ever had the pace of Robbie and Dean. I knew that. My qualifying didn't go to plan. I don't think my setup really suited the faster track. I did okay, on the optimum track before that. I was doing okay, but yeah, once Dean and Jonathan had that little coming together, I saw Dean shooting to the pits an early stop. I knew he'd be out on his own and able to put in lap after lap of consistent pace. He, with race fuel, he's consistently, half a second quicker than me. So I knew it'd be a tall order to try and stay with him. Unfortunately, I got my fuel calculations wrong and completely messed up my second pit stop and had to go a lot longer than I thought I was going to. But it just allowed me to come out my last stop and really put the hammer down. Really, and I mean, I was pumping in sort of low 217s to start with, and then. Picked up my last track warning and I thought, right, I'm gonna have to back it off now. I've got no real threat for third place, so I'm just gonna take it easy and bring it home, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair to you, Rich, you did take the fastest lap from yourself at the end with a 2:17.0. So I think that if that's one solace to take, you were quicker than Robbie on one lap pace at that point, at least anyway. But like you say, we had a few people get caught up a drive-through penalty, so it's probably sensible that you did that in the end. In terms of thoughts of championship, of course. Some eventful races. Well, you've definitely had some more eventful races than that one. I'm thinking back to the Nurburgring as an example. What are your thoughts going into next season? Like I said, we've got a bit of a break now. Are you going to sit back and potentially try a couple of the car combinations, or are you thinking maybe stay with the Aston for the next one? What are your thoughts at the moment, or is it too soon to tell?
Yeah, I've not really thought about it a lot. I've not done an awful lot of practice over the last probably since the Bathurst race. I think I've come on it probably only about 3 or 4 times onto the servers just to do a bit of practice. So I think I'm just going to take a step back for a while. This season it's not been great. It's been a bit up and down. But I feel like I've not really I've put a bit of effort in, but not had the desire there as well. Really, I've been in some good positions. Nurburgring, they were qualified 4th or 5th, and then obviously well away at the back by the first lap, and obviously Bathurst I was leading the race until I stuck it in a wall. So things could have been a lot different for me. I don't feel like I've got the pace really to compete with Dean and Robbie and even Jonathan on certainly on some tracks. But yeah, I'm going to go away. I've got a new league starting tomorrow. Me and Dean, Regan and Kieran have representing Simsport, which will be good. We're in the Aston again. Me and Dean are in the Aston again, so that'll be interesting. Hopefully do well. And yeah, I think I'll assess the situation by the time the next season comes round, and I may even try something mid-engine, because I've yet to go there yet. So I may treat myself to a mid-engine car next time round.
Lovely stuff. Well, yeah, congratulations again, Rich. Like you say, it's not a tumultuous season, but nice to end on a high, at least for the podium at the end. And best luck in representing Simsport in the championship starting tomorrow. And we'll catch you next season. All the best.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Brilliant. Well, there you go, guys. We've heard from our top 3. Like we've heard from Robbie, from Dean, and from Rich in the end there. Aaron, like I say, all good things have to come to an end, unfortunately. But I mean, we've had a pretty good end to the season and a fantastic season overall, haven't we? Really, what were your? If you were to summarise it, how would you put it?
Oh, it's been a fantastic. It's always a fantastic season, and I don't really expect anything less. And it could be GT3, GT4. You know, like we've got iRacing. They do iRacing at Simsport. We do race room, and it's always the same. It's not what you drive; it's who you're driving with, and that's the biggest thing at Simsport. So yeah, it's just a really good community to be a part of, and you can never expect anything less than really good fun.
Absolutely, I couldn't have put it better myself.
Mwah!
That's brilliantly surmised as ever. Far better than some of the predictions, and far better than my prediction at the end as well. I will hold my hands up where I'm wrong, and I got that completely wrong, but I'm not bitter at all. It's fine. Anyway, look, thank you to everyone who's watched through the season, who's watched from Catalonia to Bathurst to Spa this evening. That is the end, unfortunately, like I say, of the GT3 season here at Simsport Racing. Coming up next, as you can see at the moment, on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. If you're into your iRacing, then drop in and jump in with the guys on a fun race on Wednesday night. If you aren't already in the Discord server and you want to get in with these guys on track and you want to get out and racing with the fantastically brilliant, fast and competitive guys that we've seen this evening, then make sure you hop into the description of the stream and jump into the Discord. And if this is the first time on the stream as well, hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. I'm sure you've enjoyed Aaron and I company, and make sure you subscribe so you can see all of the other ones as well. See, I'm getting all choked up now, you can hear it in my voice. But anyway, on behalf of myself, David Wressell, and Martin-Pilkington, who's joined me in the commentary box this evening, and our broadcast director as always, Steve Proudly, who's done fantastic work on the cameras as ever, I'd like to thank you very, very much for watching, and we'll see you again for the next season in a few weeks' time. Thank you again, have a wonderful evening, see you again, bye bye.